Hello, friends, and welcome to the 57th episode of All New Snap Judgments. As always, I'm Roy Rogers, and joining me today is my friend and yours, even though we're recording this before the 4th of July, a post-4th of July future space worm emperor of the Snap Judgments network, my friend and yours, Aaron Glazer. Glazer, how are you doing in these actual days of summer, since you are officially on summer vacation now that we are recording this?
I wish union work would let me have a summer vacation, but
I feel that energy.
Other than that, I'm doing really well. Also, that whole Space Worm God Emperor thing was a lot funnier a week ago. Bless America.
That's fair. That's fair. You know, reality tends to make fools of us all. That is definitely something that I've definitely learned in my 40-odd years of life. But in more joyous and celebrating, just like the fireworks that many of our loyal listeners here in the U.S. or Canada, for Canada Day was this week as well, will have enjoyed. Who are our very special guests this week, Aaron?
We are going to start with our new guest. We are very excited to bring to you one of Marvel Snap's brightest personalities and most enjoyable people. You know him, you love him. Power On's JonnyBGoode. How you doing, Johnny?
I am doing amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me here. I'm literally on cloud nine right now. This is just a dream. Thank you so much.
We are thrilled to have you. And when our loyal viewers / listeners / whatever, however they take this podcast in, would look to find you, how will they do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at JonnyBGoode pretty much anywhere, Twitter and Twitch. I stream weekly, mostly every day. Willing tonight is a little bit different, but I stream mostly every day, and you could find me playing Marvel Snap like any crazy addict, like Docty, like Pulse, like Roy. Thank you.
All right, so just for the record, that's JonnyB, just the letter B, good with an E at the end, right?
That's correct.
And
the letter and the words game afterwards.
Good. So just making sure everyone can find you, because by the end of this episode, we know they're going to want to. We are also joined by the rising star of Marvel Snap, the Newberry. It should be the Starberry at this point, like he's a New York Knickerbocker. It is Docty. Hi, Docty.
Hey, how's it going? I appreciate the words.
Docty, this whole episode's built around your skill set. So when everyone's wildly impressed with your skill set, how can they find you?
Mainly on YouTube, Docty_snap. That's DOCTY_snap. Active on YouTube and Twitter, same handle there. And that's where you can find me. Even when I stream, I'm live streaming from my YouTube.
Yeah, I saw that. When I went to go make sure I spelled your YouTube handle right, I was like, Docty streamed on YouTube? Look at that. Taking over the game. Awesome.
All right. Well, just a quick reminder to our loyal listeners and loyal viewers how you can engage with us on social media. We are on the official United States Supreme Court declared social media app, Twitter, at SnapJudgeCast there. So again, if you're looking to engage with us there, we're at SnapJudgeCast. We are incredibly excited each and every week to be the official podcasting partner of Marvel Snap Zone. We have one ask, that you go over there and join their Discord. They have the best large Discord in all of Marvel Snap. So please, besides supporting their awesome content by many friends of the show, you should definitely go on, join the Discord, join the community. It's awesome. It's great. Glazer's on there plenty. You can really engage with us there and support the awesome people over at Marvel Snap Zone. If you want to use the internet equivalent of snail mail to reach us, you can email us at snapjudgmentspodcast@gmail.com. Since Kick is dying, it is increasingly more likely we will see your email through all the spam that Glazer subjected us to for his brief time. For some reason, he signed up for Kick. But either way, you should definitely email us at snapjudgmentspodcast@gmail.com. Last, but definitely not least, is our YouTube channel, where 6 out of 7 days a week, Glazer is producing amazing YouTube content, and then 1 day a week, the podcast goes up there. Glazer, if our loyal listeners were to become our loyal viewers, what would they find on the YouTube now?
So much Arisham. So much Arisham. All the Arisham decks. Everyone's Arisham decks. Arisham decks from you. Arisham decks from me. Arisham decks for everybody. All the Arisham.
Awesome. So if you want to learn about Arisham, you should go over, click that like and subscribe button on @SnapJudgmentsPod. And also, what's really important is our Patreon. So our Patreon is a little bit different than other folks' Patreon. It's basically the way that Glazer can fund competitive Snap. It is a reverse pyramid scheme where it's just it's how Glazer can excuse the obscene amount of his personal money that he puts forward out there. He can say at least some of it is offset by the Patreon. So if you enjoy things like these sort of side events that Gunny T and other folks run, the sort of quick to fire King of the Hill tournaments, or you like the larger, bigger tournaments like the Snap Judgments League, the way to keep that going so that Glazer does not get divorced is by supporting us on Patreon, which is Snap Judgments on Patreon. So again, as low as $1 heavily supports sort of the content Glazer makes and the events that he runs and helps sponsor. So please support us if you can. Obviously, if you can't afford it, you should be spending your money much more wisely than on people's Patreons. All right, speaking of spending your money, I spent 6K tokens on this card this morning, or actually last night. But let's go over it real quick. We've got a, 7 cost. Whoa, second most expensive card in Marvel Snap after Death. 7 strength, Series 5, 6K tokens with the ability at the start of the game, +1 max energy, shuffle 12 random cards into your deck. Johnny, as our new guest here, what are your thoughts of the card of 2024? Probably the most talked about card in the game's recent memory.
So as far as Arishem goes, I think this is probably the most fun we've ever had in a really, really long time. I think this is like draft mode without it actually being draft mode. The level of surprise, logic, strategy that needs to be put into this deck with Arishem is just nothing short of incredible, to be honest. And as far as a competitive aspect goes, I mean, I've already seen the card win Infinite Conquests. So there's really nothing bad I could say about the card, except for the fact that you can't play it till pretty late, and 7 power is not like maybe as big as you want to play on turn 7. So,
Docty?
Yeah, it's. I agree with Johnny that listen, we knew this card was going to be fun. I mean, we just knew it did something new. We didn't know how competitive it was going to be, but we know that it is like that mini draft mode. And what I think is the craziest thing is that because everyone knew it'd be fun, everybody has this card. I mean, I have not seen such a uniform, like, just immediate card release meta since Loki. It's the last time I remember when Loki first came out, and I just saw Loki mirror matches all week 1. Probably before that, it was maybe High Evo. I played Arishem last night and today, and I've probably played, I don't know, at least 20 games. I think I've seen maybe 3, maybe 4 non-Arishem decks. I mean, it's basically all mirror matches. So right now, it's just like the Arishem takeover, and I really think that's, I do think he's a fun card in the long run, but just the immediate impact, seeing like, I don't know, 80-90% of players getting one card at the same time that makes its own deck and archetype, it just took over the scene. And I know it's refreshing for a lot of players if they've been feeling burnt out. So I think it's a great addition to Snap. We'll see how he performs competitively, but he's already made a huge impact.
Roy?
I played some games with him this morning and really enjoyed it. Although I kept drawing some of the single worst cards in Marvel Snap. For example, I needed to draw literally any card with power and drew Dagger on the last turn. That was a great feeling. I'm learning just how many bad cards there are as well in Marvel Snap again that I've sort of forgotten about. But overall, the card's been really fun. I think I've been playing sort of a budget version of the Loki lists that like our friend Safety Blade and other folks have popularized. They've been really fun. The card, I think, does live up to its hype. Its animation is really cool, but I can imagine getting sick of it after a while. Like if you're playing like a lot of Airshim, like I played like 7 or 8 games back to back, and I was like, I don't know if this animation is gonna really be my friend in a month or so. But up to this point, I think I've enjoyed the card. I'm glad I spent 6K tokens on it. Even if it ends up being sort of like a binder card for when you like seriously want to play Marvel Snap in a few months, I will just enjoy playing it. The same in which like Baron Zemo, for example, is another card that just like I enjoy playing in, even when he's not meta. And so I'm just glad that this card exists in Marvel Snap, both for my collection and for the other people who are getting joy out of it. I am one of the people who thinks that this card will probably end up landing somewhere around high Evo power level, where it's like a deck that exists and floats between like tier 3 and tier 2, sort of like once it settles. And I do worry that some of the hype will go down when sort of like the platonic ideal of the Airshim deck is discovered. And so I hope that people sort of like get their love of this card and its novel draft mode experience like out of their system pretty quickly, because the combination of sort of like eventually when some brilliant person figures out the ideal deck and the animation, people might get a little sick of it. Other Airshim thoughts, friends?
I need.
Yeah, I just want to
No, I think-
respectfully
yeah, go
disagree. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
No,
Be my guest.
No, Johnny, I want to hear your thoughts on the animation. I know you're loving it.
I love the animation. You can quote me on this. The animation will never get old. It is the one of, if not the coolest animation, probably besides the Galactus animation in the game. Let's be honest. It's so cool.
It's definitely cool. The question is, like, unlike the Galactus animation, it doesn't happen every game. Like at the beginning is the first thing. As someone who's played a lot of Galactus. Like
I already close my eyes at the start of Airshim games. I just take a long blink at the start of games so I don't have to look at it. Especially on the PC, like it flashes and I don't enjoy the feel. I don't like it. But Airshim is going to be like an 80s or 90s comedian where it's going to start off all like heartwarming and funny, and then it's going to be like, you know what I really hate? My wife. That's what Airshim's going to be. It's going to be that card that the entire community is going to viciously turn on in about 2 weeks. So, like, mentally prepare yourself for the honeymoon to end and the viciousness to commence, because if I know one thing about Marvel Snap, that's how everything goes. I played through the early High Evolutionary days when everyone went, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. We have a whole new deck, and then literally 2 weeks later, they're like, break it now, it's too good. Take it apart. I don't want to see this every game anymore. And, like, that's 1,000% going to happen with Airshim. I mean, it shouldn't, because Airshim's, like, real easy to beat. I got an Infinity ticket, losing 5 cubes. One was a 4-cuber that I just wasn't paying attention because I felt invincible. And one was just a 1-cube retreat because I was like, oh, I didn't draw anything with the Darkhawk bounce deck. Like, Darkhawk, like, regular Darkhawk eats Airshim. Just eats it.
It does, yes.
It's not even like a real thing, right?
He's good
like,
in the mirror, too.
They're like, I blobbed and Mystiqued my blob. And I'm like, well, I've got a 20 power Werewolf by Night and a Darkhawk. Or you could just Darkhawk and Mystique and like not do work, right? And you're just like, oh, well, I've got 2 40 power cards. You've got 2 20 power cards. Guess which one is bigger? Like, it's silly. It's like, it's entirely silly. How much Darkhawk eats this. This should never be meta, but it's so fun and people enjoy it so much that it is fairly likely to be meta no matter what. It should be fine if the community adjusts. My faith is not with the community in this one. I think they're just going to complain instead of adjust. Like, it should be chased down to a reasonable play rate, and then it should just be a regular good fun card.
One more thing I'm just going to add very quickly is that because of the ramp effect, you basically always have priority by turn 5 and turn 6. So if the opponent has Magic or has Sarah, more likely than not, you're getting Shang-Chi'd with either Absorbing Man or Grandmaster. So also just to watch out for that when you play Airshim.
Agree. Yeah. It's still a really good and really fun card, and like, it is my belief that this is now the card that if you're entering Series 3, you should just buy. Because people are like, someone was like, I don't have many cards, but I don't have the tools to beat Arishem. Like, just buy Arishem. They're like, but I don't have the cards to put in it, like Mockingbird and Blob. I was like, you see Blob 1 out of every 3 games, you'll be fine. Just go play, right? Like, maybe you'll get a Blob. Like, you'll be like,
you'll get a Darkhawk, and you'll
like,
break the mirror. Yeah,
I got Quinjet in my first game.
Yeah, there you go. Like, it's completely absurd, right? I got Agatha 3 games in a row, which was fun. But
that's awesome.
I won one of them.
There
and
you
then
go. Hey, that's
the second
pretty
I
good.
retreated. And the third Agatha was just like, it was a not Death's Domain, the like blow up to get 2 energy thing.
Oh.
And Agatha was like, "Ooh, that's the only place we play." And I let that one play out because it was so silly.
I love that card.
But yeah, Arishem is genuinely fairly delightful, and I really, really, really hope that people realize that, like, I hope enough people like just go, okay, I'm just going to play Darkhawk for a while to put Arishem in a good place in the meta before people lose their goddamn minds about this.
All right. Well, that is the current cards you can play with. But today is the promised last week by Glazer is the week we're going to go over all of the future cards that were spoiled in various data mines. All right. Couple of quick disclaimers here about this. These are data mines. They can and will change. They have changed repeatedly. All right. They are not. We've had this fight. Glazer and I have this fight on here. While they are a form of advertising, they are not a promise. Okay? So do not like bet your life on some sports bet that Glenpool is going to 100% end up as this 4/4 here.
She doesn't end up as this because she's already been changed, and I didn't realize I didn't change the slide for this. So she's a 4/6 that triggers 3 times. So she's only giving 3 times she triggers. So the extra 2 power is on her now, not getting hit into your hand. My bad. I should have double checked that.
See? All right, Glazer proving my point live.
Well, because I have all these cards on various slideshows, and I could not figure out where the fuck I put the Young Avengers slideshow. So after looking for it for 20 minutes, I redid all the Young Avengers slides, and then I forgot to double check these. So if there's any mistakes in the other month, sorry. Because Young Avengers drove me a little nuts. We are going to rank all these. So we're going to go through them one by one, not like an hour on each, just a thought or two on each, a quick conversation about each, and then we're going to rank them at the end. All good?
I mean, Glazer, aren't we literally going to talk about Glenpool next week, too?
No. I mean, yes. But we're not going to do the whole episode on just ranking the new cards. Next week is Spyro and Sizer, so I'm going to try and figure out something theme appropriate. Docty is the king of new card content. That's why Docty gets the new card content.
All right, well, we'll throw this to Docty.
Also, they're out of office, so my working assumption is that there are going to be very few changes to the they like basically released a patch and left for a week. So my working assumption is that this next month is going to be very, very similar to what we got.
Yeah, it's also very short. Right?
They're all the same length. They're all 5.
There's 5 cards? Is there?
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In this season? Glenpool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to it, but anyway. Yeah. All right, so Glenpool, who's now 4/6, only triggers 3 times, but gives +2 power each time. Docty, you can open us up here with your feelings about everybody's favorite combination of Spider-Glen and Deadpool. Definitely a character that should definitely exist. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we can tell with Roy's love for this card, but it's okay. She's been changed a lot from her early data mines, and obviously, we had the last change here we mentioned, and she's really just a stat stick. She's kind of like a Crossbones or Obsidian, but the requirement comes after you play her. Those cards are 4/10s, but Call, you need a 1 cost on its lane to play. Okay, then you get the 4/10, great. Crossbones, you need to be winning the lane, then you slap him down as a 4/10. Gwenpool, you can play anywhere, but you play as a 4/6, and then assuming you're able to play the cards that she hit in your hand, whether she hit, 1 card multiple times or spread out over cards. Once you play them, if they have, the +2, she ends up being like a 4/10 or 4/12 if you manage to play all the cards that she hit with +2 power. So her requirement doesn't come early. You can play her in any lane, but if you play her on turn 6, it doesn't work out for you or on the last turn of the game. So She's kind of just a stat stick. I don't think you build around her. I've not really seen many great ideas of just building around her. You probably just put her in like a good cards deck and say, hey, I'm going to have this essentially a 410 or 412 that dodges Shang-Chi and, spreads out that power across the board. So I think she'll be okay. She won't be crazy. She won't be horrible. Not super exciting, but you're probably going to want to buy the season pass anyways. And so, she's fine, is how I see her. I'll pass it over to Johnny.
Hey, thank you. So actually, my take is a bit different. I'm actually very excited for Gwenpool. I think Gwenpool is actually going to be a very interesting card, only because we're going to see Gwen come out around turn 4 or 5. If the game is extended, like for example, oh yeah, sorry, turn 3. That's right.
Harrison, baby.
Yeah, that's right. So the idea is that if we can get her out with, for example, a Wong, and we can have all of the cards out of our hand already, I think that it makes. I think that Gwen can just pick a card multiple times, boost it up, and it's like Docty says, we end up getting like something like a 412 or like whatever it is, 10, 12. The idea with that is if you can put that on a card like Sebastian Shaw, for example, or put it on a card like Brood, for example, and then last turn, turn 7, come out with your Brood Shaw Silver Surfer Wombo combo. I mean, we're talking like big stats. So plus on top of the Wong, it starts to all add up, and I think that this really makes it quite interesting.
I think they've been trying to make a strength buff deck for a while now. They started trying with Shaw and Gilgamesh and all these cards. Like, they clearly want this to be a thing. Alright, theory time. I'm pretty sure the reason that they can't re-release Zabu, even though they know what to do with it, I put that in quotes for those, since no one can see me, since they know what they're doing, is Zabu is going to get activate, and then something like its old text, where it's going to do like -2 for one turn. If that happens, if like Zabu is in the meta, Gwenpool is really good. And if Zabu is not in the meta, then I don't want to play Gwenpool. It's fundamentally where I am. If some version of Zabu, whether it be completely busto Zabu, or even just 2/2 -1 to all 4 Zabu, is in the meta, then I really like Gwenpool as a card. And if I have to pay 4 for it and play it fairly, no thank you. I can get 4/10 easier. And like, since I can't guarantee what this is going to hit, like this card makes Makari better. Right? Keeping that hand small, making it more likely to hit the same important target multiple times. But, like, outside of that,
I think she's cool redundancy for Gilgamesh, right? Like, Gilgamesh decks, like, they have now another tool to sort of create opportunities for strength to be risen, and sort of like and asks deck builders to think about Gilgamesh like a little bit differently than simply the Zoo deck, or just like offering the Zoo deck an additional out to, if they don't draw, like there's now a third sort of strength buffing piece besides what was my name escaping me? Kazar, there we go, and Blue Marvel. So like more redundancy in that for the Gilgamesh shell is like interesting. Like, will it end up being great? I don't know. I would lean towards maybe not, but I think it's super interesting. It's good, cool design space that they're playing with, and I'm definitely interested. Like, I would actually like really be interested in pushing Gilgamesh decks away from Blue Marvel and like forcing them to sort of like play that 5-drop, right? Because I think it opens up some spaces for things like Black Swan and sort of like other cards that are really interesting, really cool, and could be cool in that deck. And sort of like, but the fact that it's so frequently telegraphed at 5 is, I think, a problem for the deck and makes it like less interesting, less competitive. And I'm hoping that more effects like Glenpool and other things like this will make that type of deck more flexible. So I'm sort of like, I'm neutral on Glenpool, like as a card. Like, I think she's fine. And I definitely think Docty's take that she's a mid-range card is probably true. But I'm definitely sort of interested for what this signals. So
it just needs to be a 3. Like, we learned from like, things that affect your hand that don't do it until there's 2 turns left in the game are tough. Like, it just needs to be a 3. Any further thoughts? Are we good? We got 15 cards to get through.
And also, we're going to talk
Yep.
about this card again tomorrow. Or tomorrow, next week. So I think we're fine moving on from Glenn here to Hydra Bob. This really is just a month of the single coolest and best Marvel characters. Definitely. All right, so Hydra Bob is a 1/4. Series 5 6K tokens, like all cards, are big bads now. After each turn, this moves if a player snapped. All right, Johnny, you seemed really excited about Hydra Bob. So why don't you tell us what you think about this card?
Oh, I absolutely adore this card. I know it doesn't look too great, but just the sheer value of the fact that you're snapping or your opponent is snapping and the card is moving just keeps you guessing. I think in move decks, this is going to be something of a niche. I think that this is something that you could throw into a multitude of decks, including Gilgamesh decks or Gilgamesh decks. Just the fact that it's a 1-drop with 4 power that moves when we're sort of building a new way that we're actually moving the cards. There's a new interaction here. I think that's the really coolest thing that we're getting out of this, is that we actually have to snap in order for the card to move. And I think that type of interaction is something sort of like way new meta for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I completely agree with Johnny in how it's new, and that's just really cool, right? We're getting the activate feature. It looks like in September, and that's supposed to be, you click a card to have it do something, like you choose when to happen. It's kind of similar thing here. You play the card, but whatever turn you decide, if you snap, you're choosing to do something. So it's a new way to interact with cards. It's new design space. They could build more off of it. Future cards may say plus X power if you snap, minus X power if you snap, or move around however. So it's really good in that sense. Even if no one snaps, we don't actually have any just like plain 1/4s. I mean, like, sorry, Misty Knight, you're a 1/2. We have a vanilla 1/4 if nobody snaps here. So I don't think it's an insanely powerful card. You can get 1/5s that you work for. But it is still a fairly impressive stat line for, no downside or requirement to meet. And obviously it's, maybe you snap to make it move somewhere good, but your opponent could snap to make it lose. I mean, it's going to create some cool highlights and real complexities there. So I like it. I think it's good design. I don't know how strong it's going to be. It looks fun.
So I have a question. As long as a player snapped, the way I read this card, as long as a player snapped at some point in the game, it moves every single turn.
Oh, no. It's only
one.
My understanding is the turn. If I snap on turn 2, Hydra Bob moves at the end of turn 2. Turn 3, he won't move. Turn 4, if you snap, he'd move at the end of turn 4. That's my understanding. He only moves once per a snap turn. Yeah, twice max.
Or if you both snap on the same turn, he moves once. So if both players snap on a turn, he moves once.
That's what I would think.
Okay, that makes this card a lot worse than like my read, because I thought he moved every turn. But fireworks! Happy 4th of July, friends!
Happy 4th of July!
But I do think this is very interesting design space, in the sense that this is the first move card that requires like no other virtual cardboard to move, right? You just like do a game action and it moves. You could play no other move cards and let you trigger things like Kraven and sort of like Hercules and like other move synergy cards without sort of having to spend any cardboard on that turn to get the move that you want, which I think is like really, really interesting design space. And I'd be interested to see sort of like how, if that is an angle of this card that gets played. That's probably the thing I'm most interested in, because to me, otherwise, it kind of is just like it's like power creeped martyr, right? Like, where it's like drawback is, I think, better than martyr's drawback, right? Because like it could, it's not purposely trying to lose you the game like Martyr is, right? Because that's the other 1/4, right? And
Marta's at 1/5 now. She released
she
as
is?
1/4, but
Okay,
yeah, now she's 5.
yeah, she's 5. So boom. But it's the same kind of design space, same as Titania, right? These kind of like overstated drawback cards. I think he is the most novel of them, and I'm excited to see if specifically that move synergy pays off, because otherwise I think he'll just end up being like a good stuff 1-drop. And because the drawback I think is very bearable, particularly with that interaction of he only moves on a turn where someone snaps. Like that makes the card a little bit more predictable than I thought when I first read this text. So
I think it has to move multiple times. Otherwise, why is it after each turn, right? Like, because you can just say this moves if a player snaps. Then you don't have to mention the turn. At the end of the turn would make more sense if it was just once. After each turn, right? At the end of the turn, this moves if a player snaps. Would just be like, a player snaps, this moves at the end of the turn. After each turn means I think it's going to have to keep moving.
that is how I read it.
Mm.
But
Okay, I hadn't thought of that.
But,
That's interesting, but that would make it a lot better if it moves every single turn. If you just snap turn 1 every game, I mean, you're powering up your board. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, but it could be.
Like the way I thought about it is, let's say you snap on that turn, it moves, and then your opponent snaps, and then it moves again, and that's it.
I think both readings are fair on this text of the card. Like I think both the like it moves every turn reading that I think Glazer and I have versus like what you two guys have. And I think it's one of those things of like it's a classic Hearthstone Ben Brode problem of like they want you to like play with the card before you understand what the card does in a way that you don't like. You can't do that in a physical card game, right? Like the physical card game has to like telegraph, all right, here are the 17 steps you need for this card to work. But in a digital card game, like Brode used to say that all the time with Hearthstone cards, right? Like play the card, find out, like craft it and find out what happens, right? And that I think is probably what they'll do. I mean, I'm sure they'll have some creator do a video that highlights it or whatever, but I'll be interested to see. I think this card is actually the one I'm most excited for us to revisit next month and sort of see what
Next week.
Are we doing the whole? You just said we weren't doing the whole thing again.
It comes out the first week.
Oh, it does. It does.
It comes out 7/9.
All right, so I'm excited to see what it is next week. There we go.
Yeah. So I have a theory about this card. Anyway, I think that this is not meant to be played in regular Marvel Snap. You know where this is meant to be played? Docty just read what my mind.
Deadpool's Diner.
Deadpool's Diner. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Like Deadpool's Diner, where you can snap like 18 times, and this goes completely fucking crazy. So that like would support the only after a snap, but then if you snap 8 times, it just starts moving like a maniac. That sounds crazy fun. And that's the only real place I could see playing this, because otherwise I don't give a shit about this card. This card I will buy, I will do weekend missions, and then I will never think about it again, except that it's going to be completely hilarious in Deadpool.
All right, I'm challenging you to make this card meta, just so because Glazer was so definitive that he is going to forget that this card exists. You need to make this card meta. All right,
like we should Craven. Have fun. All right,
move on. All right, Ajax. All right, so Ajax is a 4/4, Series 5, 6K tokens. All right, has the ongoing ability +1 power for each card in play afflicted with negative power. Frowny face for asking people to play with Scorpion, one of my least favorite cards in the entire game. Docty, thoughts, feelings, opinions about Ajax here? You're muted, Docty.
Sorry, my bad. This is another card that did get changed in the last data mine. He's now a 5/5 with the same ability.
He is?
Yeah, 5/5.
I genuinely didn't see that, and
it's
I live
recent.
and breathe Marvel
When
Snap.
I did my video of new preview
shit,
of the
it
season,
really is.
I had
no
4/4.
idea. You know why that shit's a 5/5? Because that shit was going to be broken. Okay, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
okay.
So I have a question about this card, and I thought Euro and Luke Cage would kill your synergy. Some people in the comments for my vid thought it wouldn't. So my question is, let's say I have Typhoid Mary down. Let's say I play Typhoid Mary turn 4. Turn 5, I play Ajax. So Typhoid Mary's hitting my own cards. Ajax is ongoing, so when I play him, he's getting +1 power from all of my own cards being hit by Typhoid Mary and himself.
Mhm.
And then if turn 6, I play Luke Cage. Now my cards are showing their normal power. Like Typhoid Mary still has their effect, but cards showing normal. Ajax
it's an
loses
ongoing.
his.
It's
So
an
that
ongoing.
was my
Ajax
thought.
loses. But
So
that is a net even power, which
it
people
is
are
net
missing.
even.
That
It
is
is net even.
power. It's just not power on Ajax instead of power on all your other cards. It's a question of, do you want to go wide
Yeah.
or do you want to go tall?
Yeah, and so I thought, and that's how I thought it worked, and people commented, oh no, even though Luke Cage is there, your cards are still afflicted. I'm like, I don't know about that. And he would have been really strong in my mind with that. The fact that it's really only looking at your opponent's cards, because if you hit your own, it's net even. I don't know. I'm not super hyped on this card. I feel like you just got bigger stuff to do later on. Like he can get big if your opponent plays a lot of cards. Obviously now he costs 5, but if you did have a 7-turn game, you could just play, Hazmat Ajax. You don't need some long Hazmat shenanigans like, Hazmat previously needed. And, if you hit 8 cards and he gets +8, 5, 13 now. It just seems like a lot of work for me to get this big stack card. I really wish he was on reveal. I think he could see good play and maybe, a toxic ongoing deck, Spectrum ongoing something. I'm not super high on him though. I think he's just kind of whatever.
Johnny?
So my take is very similar. I think that yes, we have a lot of things that we're trying to do. Turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. I think the setup for Ajax to get powered up, just to have it at like Docty said, like the ceiling 513. It's a little bit underwhelming, particularly when we have like Darkhawk right now, which is like gigantic. But I think that there is some space for it, like maybe in a deck with like a clog deck with like Man Thing, Hazmat also, White Widow, Black Widow. As long as we can kind of throw the negative power onto our opponent's side and power up with Ajax on turn 5 and make sure that Ajax would sort of be like almost like a reverse Gilgamesh in that sense. So if we can make it work, then great. But the problem is it's not an on reveal, it's an ongoing. So we do have that possibility that opponent could just save themselves with the Luke Cage, which is becoming more and more prevalent as we play the game.
I think this goes in the Spectrum Toxic deck, and which is a deck that's been looking for more redundancy in sort of powerful cards. Like the fact that it's not dead on your oh my god, the Toxic Girl. Why is it escaping me?
Hazmat?
Hazmat, there we go. I just said it earlier, Hazmat. Like the fact you could just play this and then Spectrum it and it goes up, right? Is I think a good payoff for that deck. I think it just kind of like gives more redundancy, right? And it does, like, for people who love the high evolutionary affliction stuff, as Johnny said, like particularly if you go all in with like Man Thing and other like and sort of like the newer cards from the Thunderbolt season, like I think he's just sort of like a redundant piece in a bunch of decks that like are looking for redundant pieces. The question I have is like whether or not that redundancy finally pushes those decks firmly into tier 2. There's certainly I could push them into tier 1, but sort of like make them consistent presence in the metagame and not just like things that degenerates like me are like, oh yeah, I really love this Spectrum card to have a sweet season pass, and I don't care about hitting legend, infinite, so I will just play what I want. Like whether like serious folks will start playing it and consistently, and I think it definitely helps those play styles, and that's why I think fundamentally I think it's a healthy addition to the game. And I think also the fact that there's enough locations that randomly create affliction, right? Because this does, if you have sewer, right, one of the 2 sewer locations, this does trigger, right? So so I think that there's like enough random times that it plays off. And yeah you can just legion it, right? So yeah, again, like I think it falls to me in like in the same thing of like sort of Glenpool, which is like unspectacular card that makes some other archetypes that are craving redundancy a little bit more consistent.
I loved her at a 4 and I hate her at a 5. As a 5, I'm not 1,000% sure why I'm not just playing Sage and then another card. Because, like, this is a card that wants to be in Spectrum decks, right? And Spectrum decks run Wong. And, like, if I've got Wong, then Sage is probably getting bigger than this does. At 3 cost. And, like, if I'm running, like, other toxic bullshit, I've got lots of different costs in that lane, and I can just drop Sage, right? Like, I'm not sure what I'm getting out of this at 5 that I'm not getting out of Sage at 3. And, like, it's sort of the Ronin problem, right? Where Ronin's triggering ability you need to do really late in the game, otherwise you're giving your opponent benefit. If you start doing your stuff early and your opponent knows you have this is going to be like terrible week 1, right? Like there's no question that week 1 this is going to be like Sage and the Leech meta bad. Because everyone's just going to be Luke, casual Luke, right? But outside of that, like, I don't know. This should be a 5/12, which is good stats, right? But I have a 3/10 that I can play. Maybe I try and play both, but I'm not sure if they synergize super well together. And now I'm running a lot of 3s. This gets really, really like janky and complicated. I think it will go in those Wong Sage decks. Wong Spectrum Hazmat decks, and be totally fine there. I think it might be good. Like it might actually just be better than Sage in like a high evolutionary shell. Where like you do this, you go like Wasp, Cyclops, thing, and then you've got this with like a really cheap abomination. This is like a 5/12, and then it gives you some redundancy there. I don't know if I need another big thing in that deck is the problem. Like I've got plenty of big things I can just drop into that deck. This feels as a 5 like a card without a home. As a 4, it felt like I could just slam it into a lot of things. But as a 5, like I can't play it in that because now if I play it on 5, because my plan was to play it on 5, it's not triggering Cyclops anymore. And if it's not triggering Cyclops anymore, it's not getting that extra 2 power. So now that Cyclops is a 4 power play. And like that's really important, right? That difference in power is really important. So I thought this card was going to be incredible. And now, completely honestly, I think this card's probably going to be bad. Like, it'll be an occasional lane winner, but it's not like at 5, it's competing with Darkhawk, it's competing with Gilgamesh, it's competing with Devil Dino, right? Like it's and God, that's not even getting into like the Cersis and Nihiluses of the world. Like I just don't think it has enough punch to be good as a 5. This is a shit month so far. Sorry. Copycat.
All right, well, we've got Copycat here. So Copycat is a 3/5 Series 5 6K token card. When you draw this, steal the text from the bottom card of your opponent's deck. All right. Johnny, thoughts, feelings, opinions about Copycat?
So I'm having a little bit of a hard read on this card because on one hand it's like a morph. It's a morph with actual power, but it doesn't change its power. It just steals the text. So if you could steal a blob, or if you could steal something, that is worthwhile, that gives you a lot of power, that's probably pretty good. It feels like a little bit of a wild card. It feels a little bit kind of random. So you're definitely going to have to hit some good RNG. What I really like about this card, though, is that it gives us information about our opponent's decks and what our opponent is playing. That, I think, is pretty much one of the key reasons why I think this card is actually very good. I do think that this card has a lot of potential. I think that potential needs to be explored. And I think there needs to be a certain maybe a certain meta that it falls into. It has to be like a time like right now where everybody's playing, for example, Blob, Legion, Darkhawk, these types of cards. I think it'll be effective in sort of a meta like that. Even in a clog meta where everybody's playing like Debris. Imagine you just play Copycat, pull a Debris. Second Debris comes right up. I mean, I think it has its niche. It has its niche, definitely.
Yeah, I have this as my take for the best card of the month of the season. I have it far ahead, honestly. I just how I personally view it. I don't think any card's close to this, and there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, first of all, she's got a fine stat line. Nocturne, 3/5, ton of decks, high level. Red Guardian, essentially a 3/5. And they're doing some tech, right? They're good stats, essentially 5 power. They add tech. Copycat, same thing. She's a 3/5, and she's adding tech. And while Johnny's correct, and it's not like Morph. I mean, if she copies a, I don't know, just random Infinite or something, right? That's not helping you. Really, the big bonus here, if you're facing an Arishem deck, then you might copy something random, so that kind of sucks. Doesn't matter. But if you're not against Arishem, yeah, you're getting the knowledge, but it's free knowledge. I don't know if we have that in the game. Cable is a fine card. He's a 2/3. You play him, he takes the top card of your opponent's deck. Really doesn't matter if it's the top card or bottom card. Your opponent didn't order their deck anyways. They don't know what's on top or not. If you play Cable and maybe played you're playing against High Evo and you steal Nebula. Well, it's turn 2. That Nebula steal wasn't great. You actually just helped their draws. They already missed Nebula turn. You had to pay 2 energy to know what you're going to steal. Like, you paid to play. With Copycat, you just draw her. That's the biggest thing for me is when you draw this, she steals the text. So if you draw her and she steals an Iron Man, you say, great, I'm going to play her on 3. Right? This is better than Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo, you don't know what he's going to get. If you draw her and she took something like Nebula, maybe you play her, maybe you don't. Maybe you play something else, but ahead of time. So I'm curious if they give her the Red Hulk treatment. If your opponent knows what she steals, I think she can win just as often, but it hurts her cube rate. If your opponent does not know what she steals, you could turn 1, draw a Copycat, see you took your opponent's Hela. You're against a discard deck. They don't have a Hela. Not only is the card on the bottom of their deck, but now it has no ability. And you just snap. And your opponent doesn't know why you snap. It's not like you played Cable and snap, and they're like, oh, they snapped because they got my Hela. They're just like, oh, my opponent maybe has a good opening hand. Maybe that's why they snap. So if your opponent doesn't know what she steals when you draw her, I think she's going to steal a ton of cubes in addition to the text from that bottom card. So that's how I have her. I'm very excited for this card. I really thought they would lower her power and her stats. She could be a 6-cost card. She's still doing the same thing when you draw her. So I think she's just going to be good. I think she has too much power, in my opinion. But I could be wrong, obviously. So
Okay, so I think the Cable comparison is the one I was going to go with too. Sorry. The Cable comparison is the one I was going to go with too. So I think it's worse than Cable in one very important way and better than Cable in the way that you sort of explained. So it's worse than Cable in that when you play Cable and Snap, you can bluff Snap. You can't bluff Snap on Copycat because if your opponent doesn't know you have it, it doesn't work. If you play Cable against the Surfer deck and Snap, they have to run. Like, assuming they're good, right, and care about rank or infinite or whatever, tournament, whatever. Yeah, they should be running on the assumption you have Surfer. If they don't run, it means they have Surfer in hand. Then you know that, okay, you can plan the rest of that game. You can lose the 2 cubes, but you can plan the rest of the game around, can I beat that Surfer and win more cubes? Copycat doesn't allow you to do that. She is extremely powerful in that, like, every snap, you have to go, oh my god, did they just copycat my card? Oh my god, did they just copycat my card? I think a lot of how good this card is going to be is how much Arishem we're still saying. See, if we're seeing a ton of Arishem, I think this card is bad. Like, actually bad. That if it's copying, if it reads 3/5 copy a random card in the game, I think that's a bad ability. If it's 3/5 copy a card that you very specifically put into your deck, sorry about the fireworks. If 3/5 copy a card that you very specifically put into your deck, I think that's great. And I think its main home would have been Mill, where you can really, really often with mill them down to 1 card in their deck, and like being able to be like, that last card that you're going to draw has no ability is stellar, but like if Arishem's still everywhere, then Mill is not. And so like this is the best card of the month basically by default, because I don't think there's anything else really good in this month. But caveat, huge healthy caveat, is that Sorry, the fireworks are really frustrating me. But the huge caveat is that if Arishem is still everywhere, I still don't think this is especially worth getting.
I guess I'm down on this card for two reasons. Like, I think the Cable comparison is a good one, except Cable didn't really see a lot of play except in decks that like wanted the extra cardboard, right? So that's like the extra thing of like you denied your opponent something and you got the information, but you also got a piece of virtual cardboard that you took some use of, right? In the case of Mill, it's specifically you don't want your opponent drawing cards. In the case of Loki, you wanted cards that replace themselves, right? And Cable sort of faded out of the Loki shell and came in and out. Like the fact that she doesn't give you cardboard, I mean, she gives you an ability, which is definitely good, right? Like if you hit Iron Man, that's awesome. But like I think frequently you're gonna just be hitting like something mid, right? Like just like something that has minimal synergy for your deck, and now you have a 3/5 with some text, right? Like that doesn't necessarily synergize with your deck. And like I don't know if that's worth a card. Right? I think it might be worth a card in Mill where, as Glazer said, you want that last card, that last card draw to be nothing. To be effectively a dead card. But I don't know if it's worth, shortening your deck to 11 slots to get that information and then occasionally have a blowout Iron Man play. Because I think frequently you're just going to use this card to find out what your opponent is playing. And because unless you're doing shenanigans, they are losing the access to the card that they're least likely to draw in most games, right? Unless you're Baron Zemoing them. And so I don't know if it's worth it, particularly at this point in the game when there's just like enough good cards. And Glazer's going to tell me why I'm wrong. He's very eager to now.
I said it and then I realized I was muted because of fireworks. Korgum. It's not the bottom card anymore.
Okay, sure. I mean, it moves. I guess you reshuffle your deck, right?
It shuffles every time a card gets added.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So maybe this is Darkhawk's girlfriend.
I just wanted to clarify one thing.
Oh, sorry. I don't hate this in Darkhawk. Like, if you don't have to play, you don't have to play this on 3, right? Like, if you're playing it on 4 with a Korg, like that's really powerful because it happens when it's drawn, right? So like you can play this, and then if you just happen so if you draw this anytime before you play Korg or Rockslide, that doesn't matter when you play this card, right? I kind of like that. All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was honestly just gonna say that up until now, I was just under the impression that this was an on reveal. So my first impression, like right now, just seeing that when you draw this, you steal the text from the bottom card of your opponent's deck. Like it's just like Docty said, like we basically have to know if the opponent is gonna see this or not. Because if the opponent is seeing this, then they know something is up. And they have information on our card as well. So on the same dime, if we can find out and actually get an opponent's very, very good card, if the RNG is strong, then the ceiling is high. But just like Roy is saying, like if we're just going to hit a mid card, I mean, we're just going to hit a mid card. That being said, though, in today's decks, like if you just take a look at like an original like Loki deck, for example, or even just in a regular mill deck, for example, if we're pulling like a White Widow, or if we're pulling a Cable, if we're pulling even in a Loki deck like Coulson or something, and we're actually generating cards to our hand, I don't see how that's a negative. Like there's so much tech involved, like for a 3/5 stat line. I have to agree with Docty, like this is a very, very solid card.
Well, this is the last card for July, by the way. So there are well, this one you have to get through Deadpool's Diner, right?
It's still a card in July.
Well, yeah, but it's not in the spotlight cycle.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying this is a small month, Glazer. There's only 2 cards in the spotlight cycle, right?
3.
There's
Ajax.
Ajax, right. Ajax. So there's 3. So it's a 3-week month. for this season.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Again,
Because they extended the previous season for the extra week because of the 4th of July.
Okay, cool. Not crazy. All right, so Deadpool's Diner, coming out 7:30. We'll talk about Deadpool's Diner in detail in the future. Cassandra Nova is a 3-1, just like a walking spoiler for the Deadpool movie. And Series 5 6K tokens. You get her through Deadpool's Diner. On reveal, steal 1 power from each card in your opponent's deck. Did they change this to afflict, or is it still steal? But it counts as affliction, right?
We have no idea.
Okay.
The working assumption of everyone is it takes 1 power from every card on the deck, and she gains it. That's everyone's working assumption.
Another anti-Arishem card.
Like, right. She's Darkhawk.
Okay. Docty, what do you think about Professor Xavier's evil sister?
Yeah, so as mentioned, I mean, if you're playing against an Arishem, you're just going nuts. Like Darkhawk, you're just getting insane power. You're basically just going to win. But if you're not against Arishem, it's really interesting. A card like Sage is a 3 cost, low power, powers up, but you save it till turn 6, right? Because, she gets more power when there's cards on the board. Cassandra Nova, you want to play ASAP. I mean, the earlier you play her, the more cards in your opponent's deck, the better. And we just talked about even Korg or, Darkhawk put rocks in their deck. If you put more cards in their deck, she can steal that power. And again, we don't know exactly her ability. You say drain, now it's a steal. I'm assuming even if a card has 0 power, she can take 1 from it. It'll be a -1 power card. And so if you put rocks in their deck, that's more power for her. If you just play her on turn 3 and you're not putting rocks in your opponent's deck, they should have like 6 cards in their deck. Okay, assuming locations or other cards don't mess with stuff. So she's a 3/7. If you just played her on curve, so that's not great, right? Obviously, if you played her turn 4, it goes to 3/6 and 3/5. So I think you do want to synergize with her. You want to do Rock Slide and Korg are the best options, or just wait until you match up against Arishem. So she's not crazy power, but it is this seemingly affliction. Maybe it does discount your Abomination. Maybe it powers up your Ajax. It kind of fits the theme. It just kind of average stats, though, if you're not synergizing. So, she's okay, but hey, we're getting her for free, so I'll play her.
Yeah, she is, for all intents and purposes, free for the month that Deadpool's Diner is running, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means next week we get access to 3 cards? Or does Deadpool Diner
not? Deadpool's Diner is the end of July.
End of July, okay.
Which is 7:30, right? I think it was.
Is that actually
right?
So right when the movie comes out?
I don't know if it's 7:23 or 7:30.
No, I think 7:23 is Alliances and 7:30 is Deadpool's Diner.
Okay, I know Snap has her data mine now as 7:23 release date, but I know they are doing a spotlight week for 7:30. But they just have right now sitting like Hope Summers and Proxima. So they are going to have a spotlight week, but with no new cards. So we'll see what that looks like.
Well, we know what that looks like. They used to do that when they didn't have a first week. It'll just be 3 older cards.
Okay, so she does come out the week the movie comes out, but not on the day the movie comes out.
Yeah, July 25th is when the movie comes out.
Yeah, okay. Cool. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think Cassandra is a cool card, and she is, for all intents and purposes, free. So it's like hard to complain about her, really. Like, she's an interesting card.
I will.
I know, I'm sure Glazer will. She's like an interesting card. Again, more asking, like, at the end of the day, like, fundamentally where I am in Marvel Snap is like, I'm interested in cards that ask you to do something that's like kind of different than like what previous cards have asked you to do. And Cassandra, like, really having you go all in and just providing more and more sort of like redundancy to these afflicted decks, and sort of saying like, I can play my cool afflict deck. And the fact that they're giving a pretty iconic X-Men villain, as from Glazer and my favorite X-Men run, is like really cool. Like, it does kind of track. It feels like a Cassandra Nova card to me as well. So I've got very few complaints about this, which I'll let Glazer take up all the complaint space here, because I think she's a cool card. I'm excited to sort of see her in her definitely mid afflict decks that I will play her in after figuring out what Deadpool's Diner does.
Before
Johnny,
you rip on her, let me say one more
I was
thing.
I was like, Johnny, you got something to say? Go for it.
I do. I have something cooking. So, I don't know. I don't exactly know when players will get access to Deadpool's Diner. I do see that Cassandra is a Series 5 card. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to anticipate whether Series 1 and 2 players will have access to that type of card. If they do have access to that type of card, I think it's very interesting that the developers actually released a card that's, for all intents and purposes, pretty good for especially newer players who want to play like Odin, for example, to have a card like this, because it gives players a nice early curve to face into, obviously cards before Arishem, or rather decks before Arishem. But the fact that players will have like a pretty cool card, Cassandra Nova, I think is pretty sick. The fact that we're gonna actually see her in the movie too is, like a dream come true. So I think that's something that's pretty interesting. I'm excited to see what this card has to bring, what this card has to offer.
So I'm assuming we're gonna get a lot of Luke because Ajax just came out, right? Which means that like this is gonna be a 3/7. So like I have Wolfsbane at home, and I don't have to try and play Wolfsbane on curve. And if I want something I can play on curve for this much power, I've got Gladiator at home too. Like I'm not sad to have a free card. Cool, thanks. But like this is, I would assume, the worst card they've released since Hercules? Black Swan. Black Swan's terrible. Since Black Swan. Like, I think this card is, like, actively bad. Like, it's a 3/7. In a non-Arishem meta. If Arishem's everywhere, this is going to be amazing. Fine. I forget strike everything I said if Arishem is still every second game. You can run this and it's like a 3/17. And you're just like, screw you. Great. If you get a 3/17 out of it, it's amazing. But, like, in basically any other meta, if you draw it exactly on curve, it's a 3/7. You can't, like, you can try and, like, you can Korg before it, but anything else you're playing it off curve to make it a 3/7, and now it's not really worth it. You can try Ravoning it to make it a 3/9, but, like, again, like, I'm doing not Ravoning, Basting. Like, I'm doing a lot of extra work here for, I'm not sure exactly what. Like, I expect a lot of Luke in the meta because, like, there's a flick stuff coming left and right going forward. Like, if Luke's not in the meta, sure, I'll play a 3/5 that's against 3/7. But, like, if I'm playing this on turn 5, like, I'm playing this on turn 5, it's a 3/5. And, like, now it's competing with Red Guardian and Nocturne. And, like, or Spider-Man or Polaris. And, like, all of those are just better cards than this 90% of the time. This is the reason that this is the one they're giving us for free is because they're literally just selling us the most powerful stuff and trying to give us the cheaper stuff free. We know that because of series drops, right? They keep series dropping 90% just the shitty things. So, like, the free one that they're giving us is just not very good. So, like, I think this card is going to be kind of terrible.
All right, well,
like,
we'll see. We will all look. It's a free card, so we'll see, Glazer. Science will. There'll be. All right. I'm gonna lay my cards on the table. All right. Kate Bishop is my favorite 21st century Marvel character alongside Miles. So I will take no hatred for my girl Kate here. All right. So, all right. So Kate Bishop here. Hawkeye Kate Bishop is a 2/3 Series 5 6K token season pass card. This is like hope that they're giving me for the school year starting up again in August. All right. On reveal, add 2 arrows to your hand. There's an acid arrow, which is kind of like the Black Widow effect, right? It's a 1 -2 on reveal, switch sides. Basic arrow, which is a 1/1 on reveal if you play a card here next turn, +3 power, which is the Hawkeye effect, right? And then Pim arrow, it gives you a mini Ant-Man. And then grapple arrow is a 1/3 on reveal after you play your next card here. Play your next card, move it here, which is Gwen's effect or Ghost Spider's effect, right? So let's see. I think Johnny, you were the last one, so we're on Docty now. Docty, why is Kate Bishop the best card that they have released in recent memory?
She's a cool character. It is just cool ability. I mean, people like Nico, right? Nico's cycling through the spells. You have this card. She's doing something different each game, and that's just fun. It keeps things fresh. I mean, people don't really complain about Nico even when she's been really strong. People don't really complain about Iron Lad. Like, having a card that does something different each game feels fun. It keeps things fresh. The thing that's a bit tough is she's only adding 2 of these arrows to your hand. Presumably, she's not going to add any duplicates, so I'm assuming you can't get like 2 acid arrows on one play.
God, if you could, though.
If you could, that could be crazy if they let out duplicates. But, it is like Nico, she cycles through every game. Like, she will cycle through all the abilities. So if you really want something specific and you're patient, you can get it. With Kate Bishop, you can't, but they're all one cost. If you decide you want to try bouncing her or doing some shenanigans, bouncing the arrows or something, Falcon or Beast, whatever, there could be some opportunity for that. So I do think she probably just fits into some bounce shells. She's adding 2 cards to your hand. That can work just in like Loki. I mean, she's just a 2/3 that adds 2 things to your hand. And so that's just good Loki fodder. It's good for a collector even. So I think she'll be good just as a default. She'll see play. I don't know if she's busted, but I think she'll probably be a stronger and more popular season pass card than Gwenpool is. And yeah, I think she's going to be fun. I think people are really going to like this card.
Johnny?
Honestly, you guys stole the words right out of my mouth. Docty, you said it exactly, pretty much word for word what I was going to say. I was literally going to say Nico, Bounce, Loki Collector. Those are the 3 things that I think it's really going to fit in really, really well. I was also going to say, to Roy's credit, that I really love Kate also. Kate Bishop is such a cool character. The lore behind her is so cool as well. The show was so cool. I think this card is so cool, so versatile, so dynamic. The fact that we do get something so fresh with every single arrow that we get every game is, I think, so awesome. We have so much in store waiting for us. One thing that I'm going to say is that unlike Hawkeye, that we could play it on Hawkeye is a 1 cost. I think that this card gives us the versatility of playing multiple cards and getting different abilities. So unlike Nico, where we're playing her and usually the next card we play gets an ability, or there's an ability with that card that's being played. This one is that we're actually getting 2 cards to our hand. So on one hand, that's really cool. On the other hand, we also do have to be careful because we are going to most likely be playing this card early on and on curve. And if we are going to bounce, we do want to make sure that our hand space isn't going to basically get messed up as a result of having too many cards.
So she's a mixture of Nico and Snowguard, right? She's kind of like both of those effects here. She probably will. I mean, if I'm being completely honest with myself, like I think she'll probably end up somewhere around Snowguard's power level. She does different things than Snowguard. What she has, I think, going for her that's kind of like different than Nico is your opponent doesn't know what you get, right? Like Nico, like you play her and, unless it's like Nico and then the card that you are Nicoing, like you'll know next turn, it's like, okay, they're going to get 2 of whatever they play, or they're going to draw 2 next turn. And you can plan like, okay, I know my opponent's got some card advantage. There's a big turn coming up, or, oh, now I know they're going to have 2 demons or 2 whatevers, right? You won't know what Kate gives your opponent until they play it, which is an interesting thing that's also different than Snowguard, because you know what Snowguard gives, right? So I think that's like an interesting different tensions than the pre-existing versions of that card. I think she will probably end up somewhere around Snowguard's power level, sort of like a Loki stapley card, like people who, like prefer the location control effects of Snowguard will stick with her. People who want a little bit more like flexibility on that don't care as much about the location control will play Kate, because I think she can't be as good as Nico because she's twice as expensive. Like, I think that if she was a 1 drop, like Nico, that we'd be in a whole different world. But as a 2-drop, like I think Nico is always going to be the slightly better low cost utility card. But for twice the cost, she's, I think, a really interesting, really cool design, and it feels like Kate. Like I think that's really, particularly the show Kate, which like really leaned into the trick arrow aspect. So I'm really excited for this card. I'm really glad it's a season pass card because I would have spent 6K tokens on it anyway, and I'd rather just spend my $7 or whatever it is.
This is going to be one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. Like, period, bar none. One of the best cards in Marvel Snap. Your opponent doesn't know what you have. You have all these extra cards, all this extra power. It's amazing in Loki. Like, it goes in every Loki deck from now till the end of time. It is the new Snow Guard for Loki decks. If you have Snow Guard, Hawkeye, and Coulson in your deck, your Loki gets so much more powerful just from being able to have those 3 in the deck. It's gonna be like bounce, yes, but like less bounce, more Zoo. Zoo absolutely adores this. Zoo has an extra spot that doesn't have anything special to do with. Zoo wants every one of these abilities. Take up one of your spots, let me win a lane on the cheap, absolutely. Because you don't have to play it the next turn, right? They don't know what arrows you have. Just an extra, like, slightly worse Ant-Man or an extra 1/4 that you can turn into a 1/6. Yeah, thanks, I'm there. Or just Grapple Arrow, being able to be like, I'm going to play Blue Marvel over here, and then I'm going to pull it into this Echo lane so I can Gilgamesh. Shit like that, right? Like, just the sheer amount of crazy, dumb bullshit that you can do with this card is through the roof. It's going to be stellar. It's going to be one of the best cards in the game. Like, period. There's almost no way. Every card that does anything like this ends up being completely crazy. Like, every single one. So part of, like, what Docty does really well, that I think I got this from him, actually, in evaluating cards, is it's how were cards that were similar to this, right? Like, this is similarity score is through the roof. It's like Nico meets Snowguard. And, like, Snowguard is extremely powerful, right? Nico is extremely powerful. Well, guess what? Hawkeye's going to be extremely powerful. At worst, it's an A++ Loki card. And at best, it's, like, just, if I have an extra spot for a 2-drop, like, I could see playing this over Jeff in some decks and being, like decks that just want to go wide, right? Like, I could easily see dropping this instead of Jeff in the deck. And, like, that's, this instead of Jeff. Just, like, let that sink in for how powerful that makes Hawkeye.
Well, speaking of Zoo, we've got Marvel Boy. All right, we're going for this is the Young Avengers month. Really excited. Young Avengers.
Best month ever.
Yeah, I mean, thematically, it is one of my favorite months, up there with, like, the Avengers Pet Month and that kind of stuff. So
They did a Pet Avengers month?
Yeah. At the Animals Assemble that they did that like a year ago.
Oh, right. That was pre-spotlights. Okay.
Yeah, pre-spotlights. Yeah.
Okay. My brain was like, huh? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, Marvel Boy is a 3/2, 6K tokens. Because remember, all cards are big bads now. All right. After each turn, give 3 of your 1-cost cards +1 power. Johnny, what do you think about Marvel Boy?
This dude is broken. This dude is just OP. I don't know how they're gonna. I don't know. I don't even know if they're gonna release this card with this actual effect. Because honestly, this is just so insane. Let me just make it very, very poignant. Zoo is about to get super busted. That's it. That's all. Zoo is about to get super OP, and this card is about to make it super OP.
Docty?
Yeah, so he does seem really strong. He used to be data mined also to be given +2 each turn.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that
what
couldn't
the heck is
be
this?
a
Why would they
thing.
even have this
A
in
virus.
here? Like, why was that ever even on the table? So Johnny mentioned, though, I mean, this guy's got a high ceiling. They've been trying to push Zoo for a while. It seems like every now and then, they give it some tools. And you do need to get 1 cost on the board. Sometimes there's a problem. Let's just say you get Squirrel Girl down turn 1 or turn 2. Let's say there's really not much Killmonger out there. So let's say that's the case. You don't got to worry about it, or you decide to play Kyra or something. And so you do Squirrel Girl. You got 3 1-cost cards. You just play Marvel Boy on turn 3. Well, it's after each turn. That counts the turns you play him. So after turns 3, 4, 5, and 6, if it's not going to turn 7, he's given a total plus 3. So that's plus 12 power. So he's essentially like a 3/14 that's spread across the board if you did have 3 1-cost down from turn 3, and if nothing dies, and if you got him down right away. So it's a good ceiling. The nice thing is the power spread. I mean, if you just want a 3-cost that adds huge power, you just like play Sage, right? Sage could get huge, but this is really good. I mean, I don't know how often you're getting 3 1-cost down right away. If it's not Squirrel Girl, your hand seems pretty empty if you just played that many cards.
What was that last card?
Squirrel Girl?
What was the last card we talked about?
Oh, you're saying with Kate Bishop. Yeah, you could do Kate, but you need to play Kate, and then, maybe he starts ramping on turn 4.
If you play him on turn 4, he's a 3/11. I'll take a 3/11.
Yeah, no, he's going to be good. I think he's going to be really strong. It's possible he's still a bit too overtuned. Like the spreading of the power across lanes is crazy. Just if you see your opponent play this on turn 3 and they've got 1-cost down, unless you're running one of the few people running Killmonger, you probably just retreat right then and there. Like this, he's big power. So pretty scary card here.
Mockingbird Surfer. I mean, Mockingbird in general, right? Like, you just, I don't need a package of cards to run this. I can just throw, I guess it's a package. But I just go Squirrel Girl, Mockingbird, Marvel Boy, and just stick those in decks. And, that seems fine to me. Right? Like, sometimes Marvel Boy doesn't do a whole ton in those games. But, even if I get one out, right? He's a 3/6. And, his downside is, what's her name? Cassandra Nova's upside. Yeah?
Wait, say again? Wait, talking about Luke Cage? What are you talking about?
If you get Marvel Boy out, you get 1/1-drop out, right? Like, you play 1/1-drop. You play, who cares? You play Nova. And you never see Killmonger. And you just pump up that Nova with Marvel Boy from turn 3 on. That's a 3/5, right? No, he's giving 4 power, right? He's giving plus, end of turn 3, end of turn 4, end of turn 5, end of turn 6. So he's giving that card 4 power. He has 2 power. He is 3/6 in power.
Yeah, 3/6.
Even if you're playing around turn 6 and you had 3 1-costs on the board, he still ends the game as a 3/5. And that's like playing at the worst possible time. Like his floor kind of being a 3/5. That's not too shabby.
Lanes, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can stack it, right? You could get it in multiple lanes, or you can stack it. You can play him in 3 1s in one lane and be like, and then Blue Marvel and Khazar. Let's see what this does, right? It's there's a lot here. Play him with Deadpool, and then when you don't destroy Deadpool at that turn, Deadpool gets bigger. Play him with Human Torch for that extra buff, right? Like, any 1-drop that scales, any 1-drop that does anything. Nico with the +2 power thing. Just, play this and then Nico, and let Nico gain the extra power before you play your next card. Right? There's just a million little things this can do that are... This card is silly strong. This is one of my favorite comic runs ever, and they made the first 2 cards of this month absolutely insane.
Yeah, I agree. I concur.
Yeah, and again, I'm all about effects that get Zoo away from Khazar, Blue Marvel. I'm not saying that you don't run Khazar and Blue Marvel in the deck, but just great
Shauna.
redundancy. Shauna,
Shauna. We didn't talk about Shauna, right?
Shauna, and then
Shauna
into this on 5.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, this card I think is probably the most objectively powerful. I will say that Killmonger is just a card that urinates all over these strategies. I mean, I know this Kyra, and if you bought her, and which I did not do, so I if this truly becomes meta, I'm screwed, I guess. But Killmonger is just such a powerful answer to these strategies that I feel like it's healthy enough for them to explore this space, right? And so we'll see. we will definitely see. So I'm really excited for Marvel Boy as well. Y'all really dug into it. Now let's get into the more difficult cards. Might be a little bit more controversial here. We've got Wiccan. All right, everybody's favorite Scarlet Witch son. All right, so we've got Wiccan, who is a 4/5 Series 5 6K tokens on reveal. If you spent all your energy this game, +2 max energy.
Yeah, this is interesting card. We got a new kind of, it's not exactly, Hydra Bob when you snap it moves, but it's a new kind of thing, a new space they're dealing with, saying, hey, if you filled out your curve perfectly, you gain a bonus, right? Kind of opposite of High Evo, where High Evo is if you float energy, here's what you get. Wiccan is if you've been spending all of your energy, by the time you play her, you don't have to, spend it all game. It's on reveal. Then you get a bonus. And so the bonus is big. I mean, +2 max energy is no joke. It's kind of all or nothing. I mean, if you missed a curve, turn 1, you didn't draw your 1-drop, maybe people play Quicksilver, actually, who knows? But that hurts your chance of drawing Wiccan. And so if you miss your curve, then she's just a 4/5. Like there's no gray area. You're getting a 4/5 that does nothing, or you're getting a 4/5 that gives you +2. And so that's going to be tough. I think that hurts flexibility. What do you want to say, Glazer?
Nothing. I just figured out a home for it. I've been working on it in my head. Go ahead.
Ooh, spicy. What's nice is it may be even worth trying to get her out early. I know, Zabu, how they're going to change, but if you do have Zabu or Psylocke, if you get her out on turn 3 and you get a 3/5 essentially +2.
Him.
Wiccan is a
Wiccan's
male
a boy.
character. Yeah, Wiccan's a boy.
Oh, sorry, him. Yeah, I always it always throws me off. Okay, if you get him out right on turn 3, then that would be really strong because you gain +2 max energy, and that's nuts. Unfortunately, though, let's say you have a perfect curve and you don't get him out early. Let's say turn 1 you play 1, turn 2 2, turn 3 3. Okay, great. Turn 4 you got +2 max energy. Is that much better than +1? That turn 5, if you had +1 energy, you can already play a 6-cost card. So turn 5 having 7 energy. I haven't really tried to build a deck with this yet, but it seems like the +2 would be massive if you get it turn 3 or earlier. And after turn 3, a +2 isn't that much bigger than a +1. So I'm a bit unsure of this card. I don't love the all or nothing style, and he's going to have a specific archetype he fits in. There's some other cards that synergize that we're going to talk about next. I'm interested to see how these cards work. I think it's new design space. I think it's cool. I don't know if it's going to be good. It could easily flop if this kind of style deck doesn't work out, but we'll see. Pass over to Johnny.
Thank you very much, sir. So my take on it is that, look, we only have so many turns in the game. At most, we're going to get up to turn 7. Having 8 power turn 7 is something that we're seeing increasingly. Is basically something we're seeing increasingly. When we take a look, for example, at Arishem, we're literally starting turn 1 with 2 energy. The amount of ramp that we're seeing, sort of with Corvus, even with Electro, Psylocke, I don't think that this is actually something new. I think that we're going to basically have to try pretty hard actually to create a strategy. I mean, of course, Pulse has always the spicy decks, but we're gonna have to create a strategy to make sure that Wiccan can be brought out turn 4, because that's basically when it'll be most effective. If it can be brought out earlier, that would be ideal. Like, say, turn 1 we do something, turn 2 we Psylocke, turn 3 we play Wiccan. That's interesting. The only thing is that I think that's going to be something that people are going to foresee as the card becomes more common in play. So I think it'll be a little bit predictable, but apart from that, to be honest with you, I'm really not sure how this card is going to play out.
Right.
I think both of Scarlet Witch's twins are a little hard to predict because we've not seen this mechanic before. So it's like hard to see like whether or not the payoff is worth it, right? And like as you've seen like trying to play against Red Hulk, like sometimes you're like hand doesn't line up in a way that allows you to do that, right? So like I think it's inarguable that +2 energy for turns 5 and 6 is extremely powerful. Or earlier, I guess, if somehow you know, if this is an Erashine. But I don't even know how you would do it in there. But like, yeah, I this is definitely kind of up there when we get to the activate cards. It's, I think, one of the harder ones for sort of me to wrap my mind around. Like, is distorting your deck? I think Docty saying like playing Quicksilver to guarantee you have a one, like a play on one, like is like distorting your deck to that point like worth it to lock in the ability to play like the whole family. You could play Quicksilver on 1, Scarlet Witch on 2, Polaris on 3, and Magneto on 5 with Wiccan, right? Like you can do the whole like extended Scarlet Witch family here, and do that deck, right? They all synergize to each other one way or the other. Like I don't know, like I think this card's super interesting. And this is definitely a card that I would follow the advice of waiting till Monday or Tuesday morning to buy this with tokens, because he's either going to be extremely powerful and build a new archetype around him alongside his brother, because I think they do go together, which is cool. And or he's just going to kind of be a weird card that you'll sometimes get in your Erashim deck and be like, oh, hey, I played a 1-drop, played a 2-drop, played a 3-drop, and here I get +3 energy for the rest of the game. So that's sort of my very safe take on this card.
All right. So you can play Quicksilver and Domino and then just need a 3, right? Which is perfectly feasible. The problem is that makes you significantly less likely to actually draw Wicked. So I don't know what the hell to do about that. I don't like actually have a solution for that. But I think the deck that you do that in is a Surfer deck. Especially one that runs Magic and Hope. Because like if you go whatever, like Quicksilver, Domino, pick a 3, like Shaw, right? Or Nocturne.
Magic.
Wiccan,
Magic.
Magic, Wiccan. Then you can go Brood Absorbing Man in one back to back. Right? Like that's your turn, that's your next turn. Right? Or you can go Absorbing Man Surfer in one turn. 8 is not enough to go Surfer. It's enough to get Wong and Surfer out, right? And like now you have all these different Surfer combos that I think are viable and interesting with this. So my working assumption, Sarah, yeah, if you get Sarah out the next turn, right? Like you have 7 energy, you can play. Well, you're probably not gonna have another 2. So you're playing Sarah, and then you're just sort of giving up the energy that turn. But then you have just like the stupidest last turn ever, right? There's a lot to like here for that particular build. Except you have to. You cannot run enough 1s and 2s without running Quicksilver and Domino, and that making you less likely to draw Wiccan means I don't know if this works. But like that's all I got for this. If that doesn't work, I'm not sure what will. I keep trying to like find decks that are just like, sure, I can just casually run a Quicksilver and a Domino. The problem isn't running 1. I actually don't think running 1 is that huge of a deal. It's running both really lessens your chance of seeing a good card. And you don't want to run a bunch of 1s and then Domino, or a bunch of 2s and then Quicksilver, right? Like, that's not going to be ideal. So I'm not 1,000% sure how this goes. You could conceivably do shit by, like, running Hood. Like, because Hood on 1, if you run a lot of 1s, then Hood on 1 gives you Demon and another 1 on 2 automatically, which has some viability in terms of making this happen.
Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
Or Kitty Pryde.
Psylocke, right, is a good 2-drop, right? Because then you can drop Wiccan on 3.
Yeah, Psylocke is a very good 2-drop. That actually might be it. So Zabu, at least as currently printed, would do the same fucking thing. But yeah. Actually, Zabu's probably safer, because if you cannot play Wiccan, on that turn, you don't want that extra energy.
It's fair.
Because then you have to figure out how to spend it. But yeah, I don't know. This card's going to be weird and janky. My working assumption is at this point, every time they've released a card where I go, I don't know how that works, that's a totally new thing. Whether it be Arishem or like they did it again this month. They did another card this month, but I can't recall what. Sage
Gilgamesh.
was one where we're like,
Gilgamesh.
we've never seen anything like that. Gilgamesh was obvious, right? Like we knew how Gilgamesh was going to work. That's just another like pump. But Sage was one, right, where like no card has ever looked at all the different powers in each location, both your and opponent's side. Like every time they've done this recently, it's been a home run. Whereas the play it safer cards have been sometimes misses. Like Fastos isn't like exactly meta breaking, right? Like it's just like you play this, you get cards cheaper. Like it's freaking the exact same design space as Okoye, right? Like the play it safe cards haven't been great, while the like big swing cards have been really good. I would assume Wiccan's going to be very good, but not broken. But I don't know how yet.
I mean, Wiccan and we can go on to Speed next here. I think might end up also being just like wait until they come back to the mechanic cards, because it could just be something that's waiting for redundancy. But let's go for our 3/3 buddy here. He's a big bad, Series 5, 6K tokens, ongoing, +1 power for each turn in which you spent all your energy. Okay, what do we think about this one, Johnny?
So I'm thinking whether or not the +1 energy sticks, because if the +1 energy sticks, then that's pretty cool. If not, then
Wait,
I mean,
does it get +1
ceiling-
energy? It gets
+1
+1
power. Power. Did I missay it? Did I say energy? No, it's +1 power. I apologize.
+1
Yeah,
power,
+1
right?
power.
What,
So
what did
it's
I
just
say? That's energy.
Energy, yeah.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. So if he gets +1 power for each turn, which we spent all our energy, if the power sticks, that's cool. If it doesn't stick, I find it very difficult to difficult to play around this card, honestly.
There's a way to read it that way, though, right? Where like +1 turn for each turn in which you spent all your energy.
But it's ongoing.
Probably.
That's the problem.
No, it's ongoing. It's ongoing.
No, so it's just okay.
So I think it just
So
starts
it's a little bit
counter,
difficult to play this card.
right?
Yeah.
So like let's say turn 1, turn 2, you play him on 3, he gets +3 power. He becomes a 3/6, right? And then if you miss every other turn, he
stays at
a 3/6, right? I think is how this like that's how it reads to me.
Yeah. Okay.
If it does, that's what I'm saying. If it does read that way,
fucking terrible.
I mean, if it reads that it keeps the power,
I mean, it's going to keep the power for any turn you spend. It's not going to like get -1.
No, because it's just gonna revert back to 3/3. No, because it's an ongoing.
No.
Okay,
no,
so
it's
it's gonna
just
keep the power.
a counter.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just a counter.
Okay,
So it'll be
excellent.
like if you play a card on 1, a card on 2, and then speed on 3, you'll get a 3/6. I have Gladiator at home.
That's it exactly.
He goes in his brother's deck, though, right? Sorry, Johnny.
Does
No,
he?
absolutely, please.
Why?
Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is that we want.
I know he's supposed to, but like, why? Because once I have that +2 energy, it's now exponentially harder to play all my power when I have 7 or 8.
I'm with Glazer. I don't speak the same French, but this card absolutely sucks. I mean, it is. If you somehow spend, which we already talked about with Wiccan, how it could flop. Like it's hard to spend all your energy every turn, especially starting turn 1. If you somehow spend all your energy, which we've also seen how strong Red Hulk is. Like most decks float here and there. Okay, you're gonna have times when they float. We know every time Red Hulk powers up, we've seen it. Okay, if it's a 6-turn game. We'll even be generous. We'll say 7 turn. We'll be extra nice. If you spend all of your energy every single turn, even on turn 7, which is a hard one, his max power is 310. Okay, it's ongoing. You're not really going to try and hit him with Onslaught. Yeah, you could be powered up by Spectrum. You don't want to play him there. Surfer decks float turn 1 and 2. You don't want to play him there. And if it's a 6-turn game, his max power is a 3/9. So I'm with Glazer. You just play Gladiator because why would I work so hard for a 3/9 that could easily be a 3/7? his base power just needs to be higher. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's a cool thing what he's got going on. But if you're only hitting 3 or 4 times most games, which is going to be the case, that you're filling all your energy in 3 or 4 turns, then he's just like a 3-6 or 3-7, and he doesn't have some exciting ability. He doesn't interact with other things. Like, at least Wiccan, you're like, okay, I got +2 energy. I'm going to do some crazy Wong stuff on turn 6. Like, this card just buffs up himself, and he doesn't even get huge. So I'm convinced he's horrible, and I could easily see his power getting buffed before release. That's my thoughts on speed.
He'll get printed as a 3-4, right? They're going to Makari him.
I don't think
that's
3-5.
enough either.
3-5.
3-5 makes him probably too good.
I think you do that, honestly. If compared to the other cards, some of the other cards this season, I think you make it.
If you make him a
still
3-5
card,
that 1 turn 3 is now a 3-8, and then if you manage to play a 6-drop on 6, now he's 3-9. I guess.
He's got 11 or 12. Like, I'm sorry, like a 3-5, like in a world where Mockingbird and Nocturne is allowed to.
Mockingbird's getting nerfed to a 5-7 next OTA.
He's got to catch up to Marvel Boys somehow. Okay, Marvel Boys going to be pumping out stats, speed. They need to boost them to pump out stats.
Fair, great.
Like the number of overstated cards that exist currently, in the game. Like, I think
this card is atrocious. It's actively terrible.
I think that the card has potential, but it does get
potential to lose you games when
we'll see,
you get that +1 extra energy location on turn 1. You're like, fuck. What do you do?
I mean, if that happens in your Wicked deck, you're also screaming fuck. I think that's not a problem of speed. It's the problem of that archetype is going to be very easily disrupted by random Marvel Snap shit. If you get the +5 energy and you're just like, well, maybe you can play Wiccan on turn 1 then.
Exactly, you just drop Wiccan immediately. You need to find Wiccan and
I'm gonna start with Emperor Hulkling. I don't like this card for a bunch of different reasons, but Wiccan, who is Hulkling's husband, has a whole freaking archetype that they're pushing for him, and it makes sense that his brother synergized with it. But why does his husband not synergize with it? I guess they're trying to go for the shape-changing scroll thing, but it's come on, Snap, come on, Snap designers, come on, no. Anyway, 6 cost, 11 strength, Series 5. At the start of the game, copy the text of a random 6 cost card. Docty, I think you get to kick it off with our guest here. What do you think about Emperor Hulkling?
I think he's good. I think he looks really strong. This is kind of similar to what I talked about with Copycat earlier, where you don't have to pay to play. In this case, you don't have to pay for the information. Now, what's interesting, it's Copycat is when you draw the card. Hulkling is at the start of the game.
It doesn't say a random 6-cost card in your opponent's deck or anything.
Oh, no, I understand. But I'm saying you don't have to, ahead of time. It's not like you're playing Hulkling and then he pops out, and then you're like, what
you'll know what Hulkling is. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. It's just at the start of the game. So I assume it pops out for you, kind of like how Haivo has an animation or Arishem, because he could be in your deck, but he's still copying a text of a random card. And so, I mean, he's just got good stats. Kind of the drawback with Valentina is, well, first you have to pay 2 energy to play her, to find out what you're going to get. And then you might get something pretty good, but it loses power. And usually you're not even playing Luke Cage. And so, some 6 costs just aren't good value once they lose power, even if they're cheaper. With Hulkling, a 6/11, that's pretty good. I mean, yeah, you're going to have misses. You're going to have, if they let him copy Agatha, that's doing you dirty a bit. But if you obviously do get something good, then you play him as just an overstated 6 cost. Now, if he's copying a 6 cost that doesn't matter, or it's bad, or it's already just something with big stats like Hulk, well, then you play him or not. But you choose, right? It's not like you're playing him and then he accidentally pops out Destroyer. So I think he's solid. He feels really flexible because he gets something bad. You don't play him. He's a good just general 6 cost card. It's 11 power. Even if he doesn't copy something crazy, then you're fine with it. It kind of reminds me of Old American Chavez. Sometimes you just play her. Now she had great reasons, great benefits for other things. But I think you're fine with a 6/11 that sometimes wins you a game.
Why not just play Red Hulk exactly?
you could just play Red Hulk, but you could also just live a little, and maybe 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 you get maybe you get lucky, you get Galactus, or you
You
get
get Red
Blob.
Hulk. You get Red Hulk at home.
Or you
Yeah,
get Red Hulk.
or
Red
you
Hulk
get
home.
Or you get Elias.
Scar for the
But
exact same stats
Or you
as
get
Scar.
Alive. Yes, you get
Yeah,
pure Alive.
I like this card. Personally, I like it. I don't think he's going to be the best 6 card, but he is pretty flexible. If you like RNG, maybe in Conquest mode, he's extra value too. Like your opponent doesn't know what's coming down. You all of a sudden have Elias some games. Like, obviously, he's not super consistent, but I think he's going to be strong. There's no way he's horrible. Whether he's decent, strong, or really good is, kind of up in the air, but I like his ability.
Yeah, no, definitely. He has stats. Like 6'11" is nothing to sneeze at. We have cards today that are like,
Sorry, excuse me.
Arnim Zola, 6'0". God bless you. So 6'11", excuse me, is not horrible. It's really, really not horrible. That being said, like we're really counting on it to get like Red Hulk, Eliath, Blob. Like we need it to get big. We need it to get fat. We need it to have something like a Cosmo Eliath effect. Like if it's not going to cancel out cards, if it's not going to move cards like Magneto, if it's not going to do something useful. Again, I think this is something where we're going to find it most effective in Conquest, like Docty said. But I don't know how we can rely on it as much as a card like Eliath or Red Hulk or Blob, where we get those numbers on board and we get them quick.
Yeah, I just think in a world where Red Hulk exists, like I think some good power has been put into 6 drops. And so like a generically good 6 drop, like generically flexible 6 drop just doesn't seem to be super interesting design space. And like in a way in which like if this card had come out a year ago, I think it would have been way more exciting. But I think that like they've kind of played around in this like 6 cost space in a way that like we don't need a generic 6 drop that you just like put in a deck, right? There's the old school like Hulk Magneto being the most obvious one, right? And then there's like the new school Red Hulk, right? My friendship with Magneto is over. I now have Red Hulk like meme thing. Like, and so someone who's like kind of between those kind of generic spaces could be either card or could also be Infinite, right? Is like not necessarily worth it, which is why again, like I wish that this had been a 3rd card in the cycle of cards that support Wiccan. So versus like this generic card, just simply thematically as a young Avenger, as Wiccan's husband. Like I just think this is just like a waste of a card, like thematically. So it makes it like extra hard for me to like appreciate what it could be. So
Yeah, this card's garbage. I'm not sure this card is better than the previous card. However, it's real easy to make this good. You make this cost 5, so that like you get a random 6 cost at a discount.
That's spicy, Glazer.
That's how you make it good. If this was 5, I'd play it. I just won't play it at 6. At 6, you're saying I'm going to take up my whole last turn with this. No, thank you. Right? Like, and you know what? This
I guess not in my Wiccan deck. It's not taking up my whole last.
You know what my opponent knows I have if this is Red Hulk? This copying Red Hulk. And all I got out of it was 1 lousy extra power.
Hey?
Right? Like almost every bit of upside this gives me is just a card I can run, and the odds of it being situationally the exact right card are real unlikely. Like this gets null against anything but destroy, and I'm sitting there like, great, I've got a 6/11 blank. That's awesome. Right? Like it's just I'm not playing my entire last turn for that. I'm not taking up like what this costs you is opportunity cost of running a card that you can actually do something with. But I will take that opportunity cost if this costs 5. If you say you get a random 6 cost card at a discount, we're talking. If you say you get a random 6 cost card and pay 6 for it anyway, why? No, I don't want to do that at all. Like I want it cheaper. That's why I play more Valentina than most people. Like Valentina's in a bunch of my Airsham decks, and I hit Infinite this season with Noki. That like the old Noki that like actually ran Valentina, Coulson, and Quinjet. right? Like, I think that's give me those cards on a discount. We're here. Give me those cards at full price, and like, I'll just pick which card I want. Thanks, though. I don't need to roll dice. Or even, I would be fine with rolling dice. This is way worse than rolling dice. Like, there's a lot of bad or useless 6 cards to hit in most matchups. It is not a generally good cost slot.
All right.
That's a good
So,
point.
I'd actually prefer if you made it a 6/11, get the ability of a random 5-drop. Devil Dino, Darkhawk, etc., etc. There's more good shit there. Ronin, Sarah's obviously useless in this instance, but like, then if it could hit Sarah, it goes in Arisham decks. Annihilus, so on and so forth. Like, that would be better than a random 6. Like a 6/11 that hits a random 5, or a 5/11 that hits a random 6. And I think this is a great card. I think as a 6/11 that hits a random 6, it's the worst of all.
Other thoughts about this card?
I agree. It's actually a pretty good point. I mean, imagine you get like a 5/11 Magneto, a 5/11 Goliath, a 5/11 Blob. I mean, it's
and then when you get the 5/11 Infinite or Destroyer, you're like, all right, fucking fine.
Yeah,
right.
Fine. Yeah.
Like, also, if you get a 5/11 Infinite, you can always pass turn 4 and just be like, all right, so be it.
That's
once
true.
In a while.
No, those are good points.
All right. Well, we'll see if the OTA.
Let's get to
all right.
nice saddest month.
Real quick. All right. I just want to say for our loyal listeners and loyal viewers, we still do not 100% know how Activate works. All right. So
we're gonna work under the assumption, and Doctor, you do more with new cards than anyone, so tell me if this isn't where you're going. That it will not work the turn you play it, right? Like, so you can never make a 6 cost with this ability. And it is basically long press to activate, and that's the only cost unless otherwise noted.
Yeah, that's my understanding, and that you can do it on any turn after the one you played. So on this one, you could have done it on turn 5 or 6. Yeah, same understanding.
But I think critically, we don't know like where it goes in the move cards on reveal order. So that is actually important.
So
right?
It's very likely to be last. On reveals happen first, then locations, then card abilities. Unless they completely redo timing, it would just be card ability. So it would make it happen after locations and after on reveals.
Well, as a new
they could redo it.
Black border, like black bolded keyword, they can do it differently, right?
They can. Just until we have reason to assume. Let's assume baseline. Does that make sense?
I
for the purpose of this discussion.
Yes.
We don't know. But yes.
What I'm just trying to tell our listeners here is, like, you need to be careful about these. Like, Glazer hates that I do this, but I want to be really clear. Because I get annoyed when people make assumptions about these kind of things. Like, take a lot of what we're saying here with more than a grain of salt than you did for the previous discussion. Because this is brand new, and technically, they have not announced this is coming, right? They've said a new keyword is coming. Like, Marvel Snap has not been like, Activate is coming in 3 months. Right? Like, we have gotten no official previews of this. So this is like extra speculative. But
yes, this is very heavily data mined though, including with video.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So
thanks. Just we'll credit where credit's due. That is Sank at Snap Fan. So credit to them for
awesome to our friends at Snap Fan. Very well done. All right. So Symbiote Spider-Man 4/6. Again, everything's a big bad. Activate, merge your lowest cost card here with this. Copy its text like it just revealed. All right, Docty. September season pass card. Off-brand Peter Parker. What do we think?
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting season with the new Activate. Again, even if it's as we are assuming, we just don't know what it's like in the game yet. We don't know how it's work. There could easily be some busted combos that just pop out. My initial thought, just because it's the merge, it reminds me of Phoenix Force, but without a step. I mean, yeah, Phoenix Force moves, so you do Phoenix Force with Human Torch and other things that move. But with Symbiote Spider-Man, it's doing 2 things. First of all, whatever he merges with, it's not random. Okay, so that's a a benefit over like Hulkbuster or Phoenix Force. Phoenix Force only random if you destroyed multiple cards. And then, so he's picking the lowest cost card, so that's very important. And then, you don't have to kill anything or do anything. You basically just have to wait until turn 4. So there could easily be some cards that just go crazy with this. I haven't done a bunch of brainstorming. I'm sure people are going to think of some nutty
Human
combos.
Torch, Dagger.
And yeah, you could still do a Human Torch, and as long as you have move options. And it's just a quicker combo than Phoenix Force. So that was my first thought. Is it's just easier, which makes it more consistent, which makes it better. And he's giving the 6 power. Now the only thing I'm confused by is the copy its text like it just revealed. Does that mean the on reveal is not happening again, or that
It's
is
happening
happening
again.
again?
It is
It's happening again. That's how I read it, at least.
Okay.
So
Okay. So that makes it really good because basically you could also just use it as Absorbing Man if you wanted to. Like you don't, a Phoenix Force deck, you have to kill something. This one, like if you wanted to, you could just play a 3 cost and, on reveal, and then next, you couldn't do like Brood Absorbing Man because it's the same location, but you just play a 3 cost on
Black
reveal.
Panther.
And then, you just play any on reveal at 3, and then you just play Symbiote Spider-Man. So he can be an Absorbing Man, in which case he just has better stats, or you can use him for some Wombo combo shenanigans. So I'm sure there's honestly some insanely powerful combos with this, maybe just broken combos. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's unknown. It seems like just better than some of the cards we already have in the game. So it probably goes crazy, but we'll see how the whole activate thing works. I guess you have to wait a turn. Maybe you couldn't do it on 4, you have to do it on 5, but it's probably gonna find some broken combo. What do we think, Johnny?
I think I'm the biggest Spider-Man fan alive. I've never been so excited for a season pass since the original Spider-Man season pass. I'm so stoked for this card. It's so flexible. It goes in so many different decks. Obviously, it's going to be huge in move, but it's like you said, like you put this in an on-reveal deck, this thing is doing wonders. I mean, even for example, putting this into a Silver Surfer lane on the last turn, and wait, it's the lowest cost card. So like you just Wong Silver Surfer, and then if you didn't get Absman, well, now you have Symbiote Spider-Man, and on top of that, you're getting more than just a 3 power. You're getting a 6 power, which I think is pretty significant too. I mean, 6 power is really nothing to sneeze at. I know I said that earlier about the other card, but 6 power for a 4 cost. I mean, it's like it works around that 3-5-4-6 curve. I think it's a very, very interesting card, and I'm super excited for this card.
My main complaint about this card is a weird one, which is I kind of knew they were going to do this at some point, which is that they have given us Peter in the black suit variants of the Spider-Man card, and now there's a explicitly like Peter in the black suit separate card, which I hate. Like I hate that like you could just be like watching TV and grok, and it's like, oh, the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man variant. Oh, that must be Symbiote Spider-Man. No, but that's actually just when I glanced at it. No, that's actually regular Spider-Man, right? Like, and so does that mean that like all the black suit Spider-Man variants are gonna migrate to Symbiote Spider-Man? Like, I don't like that they did that. Like, I get it. Like, they want a Peter like in the symbiote suit like card to launch their big new mechanic. Like, I get it. And they already have a Venom card. They already have a Carnage card. Like, they're out of, as we also see when we see the Spider-Man characters. Like, I guess Scarlet Spider is like the remaining big Spidey character. I guess Kane too, right? But none of them are Peter in the suit, right? And so I don't like that. Like, I mean, that's more of like a theming grokking complaint, because otherwise, this is a really powerful way to launch the activate mechanic. And I think it basically says that they want activate decks. Like, they do not want this to miss, right? This is asking every type of player, like theme players, people who just love Spider-Man, like Johnny, right? If you love Spider-Man, you want Peter in the suit. If you're a Johnny, player who loves over the top things, this is an over the top cool card, but it's also clearly a competitive card. Like, it's statted to move, and its ability like has a relationship with pre-existing cards, so you can judge it against this. So I think this is going to end up being like up there with Loki, is like one of the most powerful and Elsa as like one of the most powerful season pass cards, because I don't think they want the activate mechanic to flop. That's my hot take, I guess.
I mean, what if Hulkbuster triggered on reveals and was easier to target? Right? Like, you stick this on Dakin. Like, this and Zola just seems silly. You stick this on Dakin, then you Zola it. Right? Like, you're just like, alright, thank you, I win. Obviously, more steps, because you should probably do something to get rid of those shards, too. Otherwise,
yes, you do have to.
But that is a very...
But Symbiote Dakin is very powerful. That is 100% true.
Symbiote, Panther, if you don't see Wong, right? Like, it's just another way to do that combo. Although, don't do it on the Wong Panther lane. That would not be good. Then it will just attach itself to Wong, and you randomly have an 8-power Wong. But, you can do this, but, like, that deck also runs, like, what's it, like, Sage, or, the name of the card is escaping, Iron Heart. And you're perfectly happy to hit either of those and just be like, my Iron Heart now has 6 power and just triggered again. That's amazing. I'm not sad at that, especially if that's on a Wong lane, right? Like, because those are cheaper than the Wong. The way it's intended to be used, I'm pretty sure, is move, just like Hulkbuster is, where like you merge it with a dagger that you had to drop early, right? Like on turn 5, and then you just go spider that shit. Or like you play Iron Fist, then you trigger the merge. And it's going to punch that newly created card, I would assume, because they're sticking it in a move season, that's how it works. And if you have Hercules, then move is now suddenly the best deck in the game. Because, like, what this does is it allows you to, like, perfectly target. And that's move's weakness, like, that you have to sequence everything so perfectly so far in advance. And, like, you get perfect targeting for move for 3 different cards this season, and I think it pushes move into a new stratosphere. Like, Dagger and Human Torch are going to be the lowest cost card at their location a lot of the time. And if I can start with an 8-power Human Torch or a 6-power Dagger, yeah, if I can spend my turn, my turn 5 going Hercules, Iron Fist activate, I can spend my turn 6 going Taskmaster. And what do? Pray you have Shadow King or Shang-Chi. Right? Like, just you win. So you win, button.
So this card is also an interesting absorb mana, right? Because you can play it before you play the card you want to absorb onto it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually where the timing is really important, right? Like, can you play a card on top of Symbiote Spider-Man and then on the same turn activate and he merges with the card you played on top of him? Like, that is the big, like, open question. To me,
so I think the card already has to be on the board, is my guess.
That is also my guess, but we don't know.
We don't know. But like, that's not how anything in Marvel Snap really works, right? Like, you can't do things generally speaking. Like, it's
until they made the move change, you could do that, couldn't you?
No, like the card still has to reveal before a thing happens to it, because like as you're staging the card, it's not a card yet, according to Snap. Like, there's 2 or 3 cards that interact with them, but they're really, really rare. I think it's like just Juggernaut.
But if activate activates after an on reveal, the card reveals, with on reveals, Spider-Man kicks in, and then you do it. Or if Spider-Man activates first, then there's nothing there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's where the sequencing is important. So anyway,
I guess we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, this is oddly enough neither a move card nor an activate card. So hopefully we don't spend a huge amount of time on her. And it has really terrible art. So really, I don't want to spend a lot of time on Silver Sable. I think, Johnny, it's your turn. You get Silver Sable here. What do you think about this super cool card? Super, super cool card.
Super, super cool card. I mean, it's a 1-drop. With the 1-drop, you're stealing two energy from the top of 2 power from the top of your opponent's deck. I mean, that's what you're getting out of your 1-drop. I mean, I would hesitate so far to say that it's probably better to include Ham, Electra, Sunspot, and a bunch of other cards that will probably do a bit better. Nebula, for example, that will probably do a bit better than Silver Sable. Maybe I'm wrong, Docty.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement here that it looks like she sucks, and and maybe even at least with I'm blanking on the card. What's the other Celine? At least with Celine, you can maybe theme it. You're like, oh, I'm gonna hit a goblin. So Silver Sable, she seems kind of general. Like she doesn't seem like she requires synergy, but she's just like, why am I working so hard to just steal 2 power? I mean, yeah, she's a 1/3 if your opponent doesn't play the card. If they do play the card, she's a 1/5. I mean, we already have 1/5s in the game that don't require your opponent to play the card she stole power from. So, maybe people try to play her and bounce. I don't think as is she'll see play. I just don't think she's worth it. There's not enough payoff. I'm in agreement there that she's probably bad.
As a true degenerate who both bought Celine on release for 6K tokens and bought a variant for her because I find the original art of Celine to be kind of you can't look at it. I think this card's fucking terrible. I'm just gonna say it. And I'm really sad that they're asking you to spend 6K tokens on this. Like, this should be a Series 4 card. Glazer, you gonna tell us we're all wrong?
What? No, this card's useless. I don't know what the fuck they want us to do with this, but I don't want to do it.
Okay, let's move on.
Wait, so I know why they're printing it, though, I think. There's no terrible 1 in Series 5 right now. There's been a terrible 1 in Series 5 as a movie prize since Series 5 started existing. And, they moved Celine down to 4, so they need a new terrible Series 5 1. And they're like, Silver Sable. No one cares about Silver Sable.
I mean, apparently Insomniac does because she's the villain of the Spider-Man DLC. So I don't know.
Is she really?
Yeah, she was.
Terrible character.
Anyway, speaking of terrible characters, Madam Web.
Madam Web is terrible in a fun way. Silver Sable is just terrible.
That we're definitely vibing there, my friend. All right, so what is Madam Web? Oh man. All right, she's a 2/3, 6K tokens. All right, ongoing. You can move one of your other cards away from here each turn, ongoing. So it is interactable. Docty, thoughts about Madam Web?
Yeah, so unlike the Madam Web movie, which was absolutely horrible, this card looks really good to me. You're giving cards an ability to move, and it's only one away, on each turn. But, right now we really only have Vision. Vision is a card you can just keep moving. Everything else is kind of a 1 move only, like, Nightcrawler, Jeff, Nocturne, all that stuff. And so if you actually, obviously she's going to work with move decks. If you bounce cards back between her and Hercules now costs 3. So, you got a perfect curve to just start bouncing back like pinball on your board. And your cards, your dagger, your Human Torch, whatever, could just grow, insanely fast. And what I think is really good is maybe you play her on the same lane as Craven. You're probably playing her in a bigger move deck that doesn't even have Craven, but you could do cool things where you move a Jeff into the lane, and then next turn you use Madame Web to move the Jeff out or something. So you move cards in, but then you free up space. So just the lane control that you're getting for a good stat line, all that matters really is her cost. The fact that you can get this tool down early that's turning all of your cards into, potential move cards is just good already, just being 2 cost. But the fact that she has 3 power, I don't think she has any business being 3 power. She's such a big tool. Why does she actually add power to the board? And so, yeah, I think Madam Web with Hercules, you're just going to power up some of your cards, so fast. A Vulture, Human Torch, Dagger, in 1 turn. You could just bounce them around 3 times. And, again, you can keep using her. You set her down early. It's another way to move cards, like a Ghost Spider or Iron Fist or whatever. So I think she's going to go crazy. She looks really strong. I don't think she has business being 3 power, but that's just my opinion. What do you think, Johnny?
No, actually, I completely agree with you. Honestly, even as a 2 cost, let's just take a look to the previous card. There's literally no comparison. This is a true Series 5 card. the other one was like a Series 2 card. Like, let's be honest, or even a Series 1 card. I mean, there is no comparison. This is a true tool. This will be in every single move deck. This is like year of the move over here. Like, there's never been better tools for move in the entire game. This combined with Hercules, honestly, like I'm also thinking of things like Phoenix Force. Like, you put multiple man in Phoenix Force, and you're just getting a million different multiple men all around the board. I mean, it'll be so easy to finally actually pump up your multiple men. Why are you making that face, Glazer?
I'm just thinking about the card.
Oh, you're thinking about how much you hate it already, or
No, I don't. I mean, look, I will hate it, but like, no, I'm gonna love it first. This is gonna go through the Arishem plan. This card, like, all right. So, like, I'm gonna say something, and like, don't yell at me. Just think about it for a minute. Why isn't this better than Jeff in most situations? Like, just in a casual, regular deck.
It is. You just play your card on her, and then they move in. Like, you give them a Jeff or Vision ability, but they can have bigger stats. You're right. This can be general. It doesn't have to be tied
Jeff
to move.
Gets around things like the only one card location.
In general, like the Jeff has very specific reasons it can be better, right? It can hop into Miniaturized Lab. It can go get played straight into Sanctum on the last turn if you top deck it. While this has to be played earlier. But if I've got 3 cards on this at the end of the game, right? Like, I don't have to think of my spacing early, my like boards, what I'm doing with my board early at all. How do you know where my numbers are going? If I can read you at all, if you're playing a known deck, like, I can do so many things with my stats that like you can't mess with. Which card am I moving? Where am I moving it? What else am I playing? Is a lot of power. Like, it's the same problem we all have with Vision, right? It's why Vision is so good. Except it's any card that's there, and you can still fucking play Vision. And still play Jeff, right? And like, it's just like, I've got 3 things that are moving this turn. Snap. Figure it out, or I'm taking your cubes. And like, sometimes you'll lose that way, right? They'll nail it perfectly. But you have all the power and control in that situation.
And don't forget about Nocturne as well.
Yeah, Nocturne. Only the best card in the game, or top 5 in the game right now. Yep. It's not Mockingbird, but you know. But yeah, like,
I mean, her Hercules, and then like Vulture, Iron Fist Vulture is the correct. Like on turn 4 is like all kinds of crazy shit can go on. I think Move is one of those archetypes that like I think everybody thinks is super cool and super fun until it becomes dominant in the meta, and then people will get very sick of it very fast.
What keeps Move in check is that it's finicky, and like, this isn't finicky. This is just power.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. It's a consistency tool, and yeah, I mean, this is the month of Move, and I think the year of Move, and I'm excited to see where this card takes us, but I think it is going to lead to a series of readjustments of how Move works. I think it's like the peak, and then it's going to come down. And here's another card. The next card is one that I believe will contribute to that too, right? Am I misremembering what the next card does?
Want to go to the next card, everybody?
Yes, that was my transition to the next card.
Okay, sorry. That card, like, Madame Web breaks my brain. Whenever I look at it for too long, like, I'm just like, but I can do this.
I always screw up pronouncing this character's name.
Aranya.
Okay, there we go. Glazer said it perfect. All right, so she's a Series 5 6K tokens card. Activate, give the last card you played +2 power, and move it to the right. All right, Johnny, what do you think?
I think this is a bit more of a complicated Ghost Spider. I think that I still like Madame Web better than this. Again, comparing it to Madame Web, I'm having a hard time justifying this as a Series 5 card. Me personally, I would say it's more of a Series 4 card. I still think that Ghost Spider has a ton of value. I still think this will have a ton of value. But again, when in comparison to Madame Web, I just think Madam Web will be so much bigger. Giving your card +2, like you give your Human Torch +2, you give your Multiple Man +2, you move your big cards like Vulture, Dagger, things like that. That's really where this card will thrive. Do I want to play it more than Madam Web? I just don't think so. And I think that if we're going to play this card on curve, or if we're going to play this card sort of towards the end, I would still probably rather play Ghost Spider over this card, especially if our cards are just going to grow in power anyways every time they move. And if I'm pulling something, for example, like Multiple Man, I mean, most of the time I'm just spreading Multiple Man's power, usually because it'll be like Phoenix Force or something, or start off with a big move card anyways. Um, I just feel like this card won't be as useful. Docty, please tell me.
No, I think you're right on part of it is that, we kind of have versions, similar cards to this already. You mentioned, Ghost Spider, if you're talking about like Iron Fist. So it is a bit redundant, and that can be good. That can be helpful if it competes for a spot, right? If we have so many move cards, then you got to start really picking and choosing in your move decks. I think this thing does two things very interesting. Well, first of all, it is after the card, like Ghost Spider, but Aranya doesn't have to be on the same lane. She can move the card. It's just to the right. Okay, so it's just a set direction. So it's kind of, it's still not completely new stuff. It's just the order of how it works. But that can be helpful. The other thing, though, is with the +2, it may come a point where you're like, okay, generally I'm going to play Madam Web on turn 2. But if I got the opening of Human Torch right on turn 1, maybe I just Human Torch into Aranya. Like maybe because she's given the +2 and your Human Torch, you want to buff up fast. I could see potential where there's a good just starting curve to the game, and like your dream huge power scenario involves her. I definitely think Madam Web is better. Madam Web is like a really strong tool, and this is a bit more expensive than Ghost Spider or Iron Fist. But I think it will see a play in some move decks and maybe get cut in others. It's going to be another tool for people. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's insanely, special or exciting. But I think it probably finds a home in some decks. What do you think, Glazer?
You're reading this as a non-reveal. Like all of this is being
we're
read
reading
as
it
a
as non-reveal. I was
Oh
just going to say that
my goodness!
we have to wait for
it's
another turn to activate it. Exactly.
No, this is insane. There's I don't know how much move you guys have played.
That's good because you can wait. You have it sleeping there waiting for your perfect combo.
You drop it on 2. Like, so Cloak is terrible. Just straight up, Cloak is a bad
yes.
card.
Oh,
but
thank you for pointing that out.
Because you're short a move activator.
Yes.
Aranya says and Madam Web both say it is turn 2, and I'm not going to do anything till turn 3 when I can play either my Vulture bullshit or my Hercules bullshit. I can drop Madam Web or Aranya and chill and do nothing. And like all my nothing is doing is setting shit up. That's insanely strong. Like as an on reveal, you're right. This card would suck as an on reveal. But it's an activate. Which means that like if I go Human Torch this Hercules and then I activate this into Hercules, I now have a 16 power Human Torch on turn 3.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you for pointing that out. That makes a world of difference. The fact that you're like you mentioned, the sequencing matters so much, and the fact that you can have her just sleeping there until you choose to activate, that could pop off. So now I'm much more excited about her knowing it's activate.
Same.
The curve is a huge problem for move decks. Like literally on turn 3, if you don't see Dagger or Hercules, sometimes you're just like, I guess I'll start playing the game on turn 4, and like you can still get a ton of power on turn 4. But if I can drop it on Aranya and Madam Web on turn 2, and then drop Hercules, I'm already set up. Like, I can snap without having played a single move card, and now you just have to respect that.
Yeah,
like, I don't know what you do. Like, this feels too good.
I think for me, I agree with everything, but I think for me, she is again another card that exact timing of activate is also going to be really important, right? Like, can you play Vulture and activate her on the same time on that Vulture, right? Like these are all really critical questions that will sort of set her up for success. I think like defaultly, even with the least friendly interpretation what activate does, she's a powerful card. I think that she also, the fact that she moves to the right and most other move effects that have a direction move to the left is its own novelty that is sort of like important to keep in mind, right? And just like where, just having the ability to move cards to the right, if like just that's how the locations are drawn up for you. Sometimes the always moving left is really bad. So that is, I think, also a novel part. For me, she's definitely like Symbiote Spider-Man. The specific activate timing and how it works, we'll see for whether, to me, she's like a B plus, A minus move card to like A S tier move card. So the last card of the month is not a move card. So it's like half a move month, half not a move month. It's a very thematic card, though. Scarlet Spider, whether it's Peter or Ben, 4/5, Series 5 card. Activate, add an exact clone of this to another location. Actually, Kane, isn't he also currently Scarlet Spider? So, like, all of the Peter brothers have been Scarlet Spider at some point or the other. I think we're on Docty, right? Or I think you're gonna end this for us today. Scarlet Spider, thoughts, feelings, hot takes.
Yeah, so I think he looks pretty strong. Again, it might kind of depend with the activate timing. Could you buff him up on turn 6 and have the activate sequence after, or would you basically have to get all of his buffs in by turn 5? Because obviously the thought here is, okay, he's a 4/5. If you can buff up his power, just get something really big, well, then you get 2 of them. Maybe it's kind of like a reverse or even an easier, like Black Panther, Arnim Zola. Like instead of using Zola to make a duplicate, Scarlet Spider lets you do it. Now, he doesn't help you buff up things at all. You have to figure that out yourself, but there's plenty of ways to do it before you play him. We're seeing more cards like that, and there's plenty of ways to do it after you play him. And you could maybe, depending on timing and how that works, play the Symbiote Spider-Man to combine with him. That could be 11 power, or to merge, I should say. Maybe you just play like Hulkbuster. Like, it will be interesting. If you can just find a good combo that builds him up fairly consistently and just have one behemoth, and then your opponent knows, okay, they're getting a second behemoth. Like, I can't deal with it. Obviously, you have to try and avoid Shang-Chi. I don't know if activate, it might work behind Cosmo, so maybe you could actually protect him with Cosmo, and then your opponent has to guess where the clone is going. So I think there's interesting points to it. He has potential. I want to find out more exactly his sequencing with activate and what maybe the easiest route of buffing up his power would be, if it's worth trying to, get him big and making a clone, or if it's just too much effort and not enough payoff. So I'm kind of unsure, but I think it's a really interesting, cool ability, and it definitely has potential, but I'm not sure it's guaranteed to be great. What do you think, Johnny?
I agree with you, actually. I think it's really cool as like a 4/5, and then you get to copy it, especially with its buffs. What I'm really thinking about is, if we activate it, can we activate it a second time? So now we're going from 4/5 to 4/5, and then if we can use it on turn 6, that could also be a 4/5. So, I mean, spreading 5 power all across to another location, 2 other times, that would be an interesting effect as well. One other thing that I really like about it is that it's sort of like Mr. Sinister almost. It's like a mix between Mr. Sinister and Arnim Zola without destroying the original card. So we're basically taking one, putting it into another lane. The fact that we can do that when we can block Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, White Widow, Annihilus, Hood, stuff with Viper, that to me starts to become very interesting when we could fill location space and block our opponent from being able to sort of mess us up.
Well, you don't choose the location.
No, you don't.
Like, also, I would bet almost anything you can only activate this once.
Yeah, I
I would
think they
say
have
so.
the data mines had a cloned copy, so I think his copy will say like clone on it, kind of like Mysterio.
Or
Still dream.
Sinister. Sinister supposedly says clone, right?
Yeah.
I think the point that stood out to me really is Docty's point about Cosmo, right? Like if Cosmo doesn't turn on, but as Cosmo currently reads, right, activate can still happen on him, right? So if you like forge on and then Scarlet Spider and then like you do all of your like pre-buffing, play him in the lane and then activate him on 6, pops up over, then your opponent does like Arlem Zola without the chance of them blowing you out by blowing up your Scarlet Spider at the start. So then they really do have to do the coin flip. I think that's really powerful. And I think one of the most interesting things about these sort of like activate combos is that you can protect them with Cosmo in a way in which on reveal combos couldn't really happen before. And like Cosmo is like, it's the same reason where like some what's that the yellow guy who's in our logo as Living Tribunal decks, right, run Cosmo to protect Iron Man, to protect, right, like you really, that's a similar thing that here, and this is I think more fragile than Living Tribunal combo, and so this additional level of protection could end up being pretty good for it. So I am really interested to see what Scarlet Spider combos look like. The juice may not end up being worth the squeeze because 4 or 5 like it's not Panther, right? Like he's much better just sort of like out of the box, like without a lot of support. So, and with Siri being kind of like what Siri is right now, it's definitely not as good in the past. So we will definitely sort of see. Although, again, if you do, or excuse me, Shuri into Scarlet Spider, you don't have to do the coin flip with Arlen Zola, right? Like you have a 410 that copies into another place without any sort of like risk of that, right? So I don't know, really interesting card. I'm excited to see what it comes and to do. And I think besides Symbiote Peter, this is probably the card personally I'm most interested in buying in this month.
So I'm curious. I think I know the answer. Sorry, excuse me. I think I know the answer, but I'm not 1,000% sure. If this is played on, oh god, the name of the location stuck on. Let's say Nidavellir, right? Will the clone keep the +5? Because maybe
that's because like when Venom eats stuff and if they have bonus power, he gets it.
Right.
So
exact
maybe
clone of this to another location. So I could see it.
Is that
like Taskmaster copying power? Taskmaster would copy the buff to power, right? Yeah. So if that could be good on some locations.
If that was the case, this goes up a level. But like even if not, there's Shuri Sersi decks, and this goes in Shuri Sersi decks.
Sure.
Like, because you can either Shuri or Sersi or just drop this. Right? Like, you're perfectly fine. And those decks run Ravona, so sometimes Sersi is a 3 anyway. You go Ravona, Sersi this, make a copy, Sersi that copy, and now you have an extra 5-drop, and you're just, an extra 5-drop, and you're just going to town. Like, you just have a million combos. Like, this is going to be a really good card. This, I have no doubt. Like, a 410 is just good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Crossbones is a good card. Very often, Sasquatch is a 410. That's a good card. These are good cards. This one is a 410 with upside, and, like, yeah, I'm in.
That's true. You don't even need to put work into it. You could just, even like you play Storm, Scarlet Spider later or something, you can maybe get stuff in. Like you could just play him as just a 410. I kind of like that idea instead of trying to, do all this fancy stuff with it.
Play it with Ms. Marvel.
Yeah. Cerebro 5? Cerebro 5, anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, Cerebro 5. There we go.
Let's go.
Ms. Marvel has 4 power, but yeah, still.
Hey. All
this is a good card.
right. Glazer wants us to rank these. Are we ranking them per month?
Best to worst. No, best to worst.
Like-
I have my own different document to rank them.
Okay.
We'll just start by month. So let's start with the next coming month. So Docty has already said he thinks Copycat is the best of the month. Do we agree that Copycat is the best of this month?
I would say so.
I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Roy, go ahead.
I think Hydra Bob is the best card of the month.
Wait, like best or
Yes,
like most
best.
fun?
No, I think it's the best
Okay.
card of the month. But
All right. So
But it's
I'm gonna
fine.
take away. There's no chance Hydra Bob is good.
okay.
Arguments for second best of the month. Hydra Bob is obviously presented. Anyone want to present the second best? If you don't,
This is tough. Are you gonna say Ajax still? What's your second best? Or
I'm going to say Gwenpool.
I
on
want
the
to say
assumption
Gwenpool too.
that at some point in time they're going to fucking do something with Zabu, and whatever it is that they do with Zabu will make her good.
I like that. None of the cards really stand out to me, so I'm fine with Gwenpool second.
And then Ajax by default.
Yep.
I think Hydra Bob is better than Cassandra Nova.
Sure.
Barring
Yeah,
Irisham.
100%. I have Cassandra Nova last.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I hesitate. I think there is a mechanic in Hydra Bob's moving that if the opponent doesn't snap and Hydra Bob moves, that could be game changing.
Sure. But like I'll take a 1/4. Right? Like I'll play a 1/4. Like there's nothing wrong with a 1/4.
I like that better than Cassandra Nova, honestly, personally.
Yeah, Hydra Bob above Cassandra Nova. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put it well below above Cassandra Nova. So
all right. So Kate Bishop immediately better than all of the other cards.
I think the only one that could compete is Marvel Boy. So I think
Marvel Boy.
I think the release order is the correct order for me. It's like Kate, Marvel Boy, Wiccan is like
yeah. So
it's like, that's
we're not comparing it within month. We're comparing it across months.
Oh, across months? Okay. So
yeah. So Copycat, Gwenpool, Ajax, Hydra Bob, Cassandra Nova. Does Kate go above all of them?
To me, yes.
Yes.
Does
And
Marvel
so does
Boy
Marvel Boy.
also go? So does Marvel Boy go above Kate? I have no idea. I think
I don't know either.
Tier.
They're both situational.
Kate above Marvel Boy just because she seems more flexible. I think she'll just see more play, but they both seem kind of nuts.
Done. All right. Okay, so I think Copycat's probably better than Wiccan.
Yeah, I'm with you on
definitely.
that one.
Is Wiccan still better than Gwenpool? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on Wiccan, Speed, or Emperor Hulkling. I don't think either of them are going to be particularly good.
Are they better than Ajax? Wiccan better than Ajax?
No.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Wiccan better than Hydra Bob?
I'm gonna say no. For me personally, I would put Hydra Bob higher.
I still like Hydra
It's
Bob.
tough.
Really? All right, sure.
Ramp, extra energy is powerful. Like that's all.
I think extra energy is too strong to be below Hydra Bob. I think it's also going to be better than Ajax, but I'll keep below Ajax because Ajax should just be strong. Speed and Emperor Hulkling.
I think Speed might actually be worse than Cassandra Nova in my book.
Agreed. But then so is Hulkling, because Hulkling's worse than Speed.
You think Hulkling's actually worse than Speed?
I'd rather run Speed in a deck. I'd rather just have a 3/5 than have a dead 6. Because I'll play my 3/5, 3/6. That 6 is just going to sit in my hand when I do other things.
Yeah.
I like...
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
We now have a thing. Which would you rather draw in an Arashim deck, right? Like, which would you rather be the random card that you draw? Speed or Emperor Hulkling?
So because Arashim gives you extra power, I'd rather have extra energy. I'd rather have Hulkling because it's harder to actually use Speed in an Arashim deck. But that doesn't mean I'd rather have it in a regular deck.
Well, I think it's when
Like
you're
the specific triggering ability of speed makes it worse than an Arishem deck.
Well, I think that's the most places you're going to encounter both of those cards. So
Fair. I guess it doesn't super matter.
Sorry.
So our bottom tier is... Let's tier this quickly. So our bottom tier is Cassandra, Nova, Speed, and Holding. Does Hydra Bob belong in the bottom tier?
no.
I put him
Okay.
one above. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
just
So
one.
then we have a tier that is fundamentally Gwenpool, Ajax, Wiccan, and Hydra Bob. Copycat's a tier above those.
I like Hydra Bob. Like, no, never mind. Scratch that.
Were you gonna say
Go ahead.
Hydra Bob above Wiccan?
I was gonna say Hydra Bob above Wiccan, to be honest. Yeah.
I like
bad.
Hydra Bob above Wiccan.
Fine.
I'm not sold on Wiccan. I'm telling you
I'm
right
not
now.
sold
on
The more I
Wiccan
think
either.
about it.
I'm gonna remind you of this so much.
Yeah, quote me.
We're doing
Me
our
too.
fucking voting for in season. The reason we're doing this is because in season we do the Marvel Snap Zone article where we vote for like the in season rankings. I want to
Yeah.
save this document just so I can be mean to Docty later.
Save the
All
file.
right.
Yeah.
All right, fine. So, but that's a tier though, right? Gwenpool, Ajax,
Right.
Hydra Bob, Wiccan, and then is
Yeah.
Copycat in that tier
I have Copycat in the high tier, me personally.
Higher
You
tier.
think-
Yeah, me too.
with Marvel Boy and Kate Bishop? I think is a tier below them.
How many tiers are we doing?
I don't
All right.
know. As many tiers as required.
Oh, I thought maybe we
think
were doing like
Copycat's
a
tier
good,
alone right now.
okay, bad. I thought we were doing 3.
Eh. It's just
I have Kate, Marvel Boy, Copycat.
Copycat?
And I
Okay,
think,
fine.
yeah.
we're on to the last month. So Symbiote Spider-Man is clearly the top tier. Where?
Ah.
I think it's below Kate and below Marvel Boy. But
It's definitely above Copycat. Okay, I can live with that. Arguments?
Yeah. I could see it anywhere around the top 3, honestly. It's kind of hard to know.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I
throw
agree
it in
with that
3
too.
for the time being. We okay? Johnny, you okay with that?
Yep. No, that's perfect. That's perfect for me. Yeah.
All right. Silver Sable, very bottom card.
yeah, well,
I was gonna
worst.
say S tier, top card, best
Top
card in the game.
Silver Sable. Because,
Like,
worth-
if you can trigger activate
6K?
a million times, you just trigger it over and over again. Just like jam on the button until the next card had like negative 100 power. Oh yeah.
There
All right,
you go.
Madame. So I would argue Madame Web is number 1.
I agree with that. I think Madam Web is, if she comes out as a 2/3, I
She's a
think it's
fucking
absolutely
problem.
ridiculous. And
She's a
I like your point of you don't actually need to play her and move. You could just give your other deck's cards like some vision ability because you're still getting a 2/3 on the board. Like it's just good stats. Like what are they
Really
doing?
good utility.
I think she's a problem. I agree with that. I like her number 1.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah, I
number,
100% agree.
she's number
she's
2 for
amazing.
me.
She's below Kate,
Yes,
just because you love Kate, or
Yeah.
because you.
I
hate
mean,
her?
I also prefer, like, yes, that's number 1, but also 2, I think I prefer Kate's flexibility to what Madame Web
So
is
I think
doing.
Web is more flexible than people are going to think. Like I could see just like running her in a deck. I could even see running her in a deck and then like just sticking like Miles in there and Craven in there and being like, look, it's sort of like Sylvie's
Yeah.
move, but I
she's
don't
also
have to
good
do
at
the work.
Angela, right? Like you put
Yeah,
her in the Angela
yeah.
lane, and then you're constantly moving stuff out
Yeah.
of the Angela lane.
Yeah,
so-
like there's
Yeah,
just
no,
Wow.
she's a really good card. So
Elsa, right?
Yeah.
like
she's another
oh.
card in the Angela Elsa Thena shell.
Soup. Yeah.
Cooking,
I don't know,
cooking.
She's too good. She's going on everything. I could see also Kate in that deck.
They are pretty good together because Madame Web wants cheap cards to move in and out of places. So
Aranya's top tier.
I would
I
put
think
her in
Runner's strong, but only in move. Were you going to say second tier, Roy?
Yeah.
I would say top
no.
is second. Is how I.
It's at least better than Copycat.
Yeah,
consider-
that's
I
exactly
have
what I was going to
Copycat
say
at the
too.
bottom
One above
of
Copycat.
Okay,
that's fair.
tier.
Roy does have
so-
Copycat at the bottom.
so, like, which I'm happy to always eat my words in these things, but
Look,
She's-
it's got like it's just got to be better than Copycat.
I
Like,
think
plus
she's
2.
better than Copycat.
Like
Yeah, you put her above.
she's a 2/4, right? Like right away, and she's just like she also synergizes with all the Angela Elsa bullshit. right? Like,
Maybe they do just make the activates all pop off because they want activate to do well, like Roy said. I think
Well,
that's a possibility.
I think it's like, I don't think it's better than Simi Spider. I think it has to be above Copycat. Like, if Arisham didn't just come out, I was with you on Copycat. But Arisham has been out for 2 days. And if Arisham's still being played in a month, Copycat's
Yeah,
going to be...
no, the Airshim determines a lot.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm fine with her above Copycat.
Only one
for
card
this
left.
list.
Scarlet Spider, top of tier 2? Above Gwenpool? Or are we
yeah.
going...
No, I like it above Gwenpool.
Wait, it's got to be above Copycat, no?
What? You're doing my girl Copycat dirty here. I don't think...
It's a 410
It's
that
a
you can
410.
make like a 415 relatively easily. Right? That works with Ms. Marvel. That, like, does good shit in, like, every deck.
My only problem is it's not... It doesn't have... I don't think it has the same ceiling as these other cards we have in this top tier. I don't think it's... I think on average it's going to be a 410 and that feels good. I'm not sure it pops off as much as some of our other top tier cards. I don't think it's carrying decks the same way.
What if Zabu is a card that actually exists in Marvel Snap? Does that change your opinion?
Yeah, that would
Because,
change
like,
my opinion.
Zabu should exist by September.
But we don't
If
know.
that's
We
the
don't know
case,
what it's
then-
going to look like.
We don't know. It could be a
We
mix.
don't. It could be 6 months. But, like, Glenn was like, we know what we want to do with Zabu, we just can't do it yet. Which, for the love of God, means activate, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but
am
if
I
it's not
starting-
dealing with, if it's not
It'll become an
for
activate
us
card.
anymore, and he ends up just being Zabooty, like I don't think that's. I
All
just
right,
don't
so
know.
let's put it at the top of 2, but I would like it
you,
noted.
so you think Zabu's like change is going to be activate the next two
I think-
cost next turn the 2 cost cards all cost 2 or less.
4 costs.
4
I
costs,
think it's
sorry.
going to go back to, it's going to be 3/2. It's going to go back to its original stat line with an activate.
Sheesh.
So you get 1 turn. So if you'd use it on turn 5, right, you'll get 3 turn 6 2-drops.
3 4-cost cards on turn 6.
3 4 cost cards
Right.
on turn 6.
That'd be nuts.
That would be my working assumption. But sometimes you'll need to use it on turn 2, right? And you're perfectly fine to drop 2 4-drops on turn 2.
If you can use activate on 2, you might have to wait until 3 to activate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah,
You
because
guys
if you
have to
play
wait
it
the
on
next turn.
3, then you couldn't activate it until turn 4, which means you would have to be
Minimum.
doing 2 on turn 5, which means you're probably waiting until turn 6, but now you need to run a lot of 4-drops. I think that's really interesting design. I really hope that's what they do, because I
That'd
think
be
that
cool.
changes the game in really cool and interesting ways.
No, it's a very cool redesign.
I mean,
Activate
it's
activate is a
completely made up, but
hugely
that's
like
right.
activate really does change Marvel Snap fundamentally. Like
Oh, yeah.
that is something
Yeah,
that
I
we
agree.
have
Yes.
not really highlighted. But it's a huge, like, it's so much design space, particularly once they start adding costs to it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, we have a list. Can I read it?
Sure,
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's hear it.
Good to shit or shit to good? Let's do shit to good, yeah?
Let's go.
Sure, yeah.
The worst card releasing in the next 3 months is Silver Sable. The second to worst card is Hulkling. Also, we stopped arguing between Hulkling and Speed, which is worse, so it could also be Speed, because who fucking cares? They're both terrible. The next worst card is Cassandra Nova, who we could move up a tier if Arisham
For
is still
free.
everywhere.
Woo.
Yeah, free and bad. Unless Arisham is still... If Arisham is still 1 of every 3 games, I'll run it just as a free roll.
That's true.
Same.
So, like, there is that upside. It's just I
and
have to
she is
think that
free, so
people
we
would-
really did underrank her because she's free.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not ranking her based on her cost. It's just how good of a card you are.
All right, I'll be in the comments of every economy video you do between now and then, Glazer.
This is where I am completely outvoted because we have Wiccan at number 11. Then we have Hydra Bob. Then we have
That's correct.
Ajax. Gwenpool. And the only card I actually want to play out of this whole group, Scarlet Spider. I guess I'll play Gwenpool. I'm not against playing Gwenpool. I don't like... Okay, so my problem with Gwenpool is, like, I hate that I then have to go back and spend mana to get her bonus on the board. Like, it's
Yeah.
lame.
I like Ironheart, where the card's already down on the board. Like, you want immediate payoff.
Exactly,
You don't want, like,
exactly,
another
yeah.
setup card, like another Wong kind of thing.
Right, it's why I don't play Nikia. It's why I don't play... Like much like Fastos was underwhelming because it's just a Koye, this feels like just Nikia with more steps.
Is it the same steps?
Sure. I guess it's a turn later, so like less ways to get benefit, and it hits random cards instead of everything.
Well, we can target it. That's what I find pretty interesting. Like when we have not a lot of cards in our hand, we can target it.
You can
That-
work
that
to
becomes
can't
interesting.
limit
target
the
it
options
because it can
but
just hit the same card 3 times, even if you have
that's true.
3 cards in hand.
But if you have one
Alright,
card,
yeah.
all right, can we just move on? We're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
We're gonna
Tier
literally do this
1.
next week. So.
But we're not talking about. We
You
are
just said
talking about
earlier we're gonna talk about the cards, so you're just full of shit, Glazer. Let's move on with the
Alright,
list.
Tier 1 for some reason copycat. Aranya, Symbiote Spider-Man, Marvel Boy, Kate Bishop, Madam Web. Aranya and Copycat belong in a tier below Symbiote Spider-Man, Marvel Boy, Kate Bishop, and Madam Web. Because Madam Web, Kate Bishop, Marvel Boy, and Symbiote Spider-Man all have the potential to be like one of the 5 best cards in Marvel Snap. And Aranya and
Yeah, they
Copycat
might
are
be
very
broken.
good, but they're not going to be the best fucking cards in Marvel Snap.
Yeah, I can get on
You
board
know
with
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, so we're splitting those 2 tiers. Because, like,
All right, that's fair.
like
I think it's a good point.
can be nearly as good as Jeff tier is different than, like, honestly, like,
Solid
can
card,
be,
yeah.
good, very good card. All right, that is our list. We are on to Variant of the Week.
All
this
right.
was a fucking ridiculously long episode. Holy shit.
It was.
I
We're
just looked at
almost,
the
by the
time.
time we're out of here, we'll probably be 3 hours. All right. So we got who picked this cool Marvel boy on the far left?
Me.
All right,
It's Chris
Glazer, why'd you
Anka, and it's Chris Anka. Anka's art is amazing. This one feels a ton like Marvel Boy from the comics, like literally from the Young Avengers comics. And this one is not a spotlight variant. They're just selling this to us for, I don't care how much gold. I'm buying the shit out of this. This comes out with Marvel Boy.
There we go. Awesome. Who picked the Hydra Bob on the far right?
Yes.
All right.
The smile, like, yeah.
This one is a beautiful pand art. I absolutely love the chaos that's happening in this one. You could just tell the anarchy that's happening in this picture is like, it's so pure. It's so chaotic. It's just screams chaos, and I just love it. It's amazing. They really nailed it on this one.
Docty, Speed.
Oh yeah, so this Hawkeye and the Speed are both Flaviano. He's getting all of the spotlights for that season, and he's my favorite artist. It's gonna be the first album I ever complete because I haven't completed any albums, but I have every Flaviano variant you can get in the shop, and they're getting in. There's gonna be a Flaviano album for the season, and the Speed one. I'm so torn. I usually don't get spotlight variants, but I'm absolutely loving this. I love all Flaviano's colors and such, and so many great new Flaviano variants. So I'm hyped on this, even though I think Speed is horrible. I'm really torn if I need to chase after this variant just because I love it. But yeah.
Well, this Kate is the season pass, end of the season pass one, and I'm very excited. It's an excellent Fabiano variant of Kate. Because she's a season pass card. I don't think they have any of her in the shop either. Like there was not. I think we'll have to wait a month. I guess that's the way they do
it.
And so I don't know. Kate's got some like we don't have like a what's the name of the guy who did the series with Matt Faction? Why is his name escaping me? That artist, Kate's. Why is David Aja? There we go. Like Kate art or any of that classic. There. Yeah. Classic art. So I'm excited for a lot of really cool Kate variants that are going to be coming. So, all right. This brings us to really ending the episode. So at the end of every episode, we recap with our guests what you would find if you engage with them on social media and their content. So Johnny, where can our loyal listeners...
real fast, I just got a gold Okoye.
Let's go!
Okay. Congratulations, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
All right. What would I say? Oh, yes, Johnny B. Good. So if our loyal listeners and loyal viewers were to become your loyal listeners and loyal viewers, what would they find in your content?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty simple guy. I like to keep things super easy, super lightweight. I'm just a happy spirited type of guy. I like to keep things light. I'm a lover. I like to fight a little bit, but I'm mostly a lover. I just love hanging out with all my friends. I love when we're just hanging out with the squad. Most likely what you'll see is as I continue to develop my channel, I would ideally love to start donating back to the community. So Absolutely. We've done it in our previous tournaments where we had a charity tournament and we gave back to, for example, kids in the Middle East or impoverished kids in the Middle East, for example, or we also raise money for cancer research in Europe. I mean, I'm always here looking to do something new, innovative, and to use Marvel Snap as a platform to help people.
I mean, so Johnny's content is the most positive and uplifting in the community. When you go visit his stream, it's genuinely joyful. There's such enjoyment and fun and love of the game, love of the community. I just started going on Johnny's stream. I just realized Johnny was streaming. I know Johnny from a million chats for like a year now. But like I just realized Johnny was streaming like literally a week ago, and I've been on his stream 4 times since then, and it is a fucking joy every time. Every time I leave smiling, it's great.
Thank you.
I managed to get on like 20 minutes to a half hour before he gets off every time because I don't know how to time anything in my life. But the stream is fantastic. You will go there. You will find me there because I love being in the stream. It's fantastic.
Thank you. You're the best. You're the best. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. So, Docty, what would our loyal listeners and loyal viewers find if they were to engage with you on your content and social media?
Yeah, so my primary platform is YouTube, and I really focus on kind of helping people, gather their opinions or make decisions on what to spend their resources on. So my main thing is Buy or Bust series. Every weekend, I'm putting out a video talking about the new upcoming card, just my predictions. Here's what I think it's going to be like. Here's some deck ideas. If I think it's going to be worth your tokens or not. And then you can obviously, use that to help form your own opinion. I got a video of Glazer on there about a Series 4 and Series 5 buy guide with tokens, which went well. And I just have a couple other, just helpful like spotlight planning, that kind of thing. So really focus on unreleased content. And I keep things really positive. I'm a big optimist. When I stream, which is just like once a week on YouTube, it's just very positive, family friendly, and just have a good time. I've got a great community of people. So it's really awesome.
So what I want you to do, dear listeners, I want you to open your game of Marvel Snap and then press the top right corner. And you're going to see like a community tab, and then press that and see Docty's name, because Docty like lives in that community tab at this point because he has completely taken over the new card content of Marvel Snap. And I love Drewberry. If you've been a long-time listener, you know I love Drewberry. Docty is better at it. Like, as far as evaluating new cards and thinking critically about them, he's the best. So, like, you can go to him for a million things, right? Like, all of his content's great. But, like, if you're getting new card content, please watch me still. But also, make sure you're watching Docty.
That's very, very high praise, and I appreciate that very much. You're too kind.
Looks, last time I'm being nice to you for the next 2 weeks, so enjoy.
All right. This brings us to my second favorite part of every episode besides our variant of the week, which is where Glazer attempts to, in a single breath, say all of our awesome Patreon supporters. Let's see how far he makes it this time.
Stop making me laugh and I'll make it further. All right. Thank you to Abigail Giesler, Manager Brenna, Cables, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is The Way Inc., I Am Frostman, Jane Everett, Doomer, Prime Brian, Caretix Leak, Koirei, Pyrofrost, The Goat Seeker, Deadman Falcon, Quid Pro Joe, Docty, King of New Card Content, Fat Nick, Doku, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, Racco, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Biz, Exorcy and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, Snap Judgments League 1 Champion, The King of Bros, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kevsey Hoda, Luna Chris, Archangel 3K, Louis Antonez, Matza Pre-Models, Darth Vader, Remy Satala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B, JD McDonaldinho, The Fuzzy Dunlap, Spectre Mix, Hoot, Matt H, DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Craig Sterry, Seamus, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homie Min, and of course, the one and only Gunny T, and the T stands for we got to get out of this episode. It is really late, and I still got to record a video.
All right. So, Docty, this is, I think, the third or fourth time that you've been on the show. So, welcome to the Bootman Club of multiple guest appearances, joining folks like Savage Yeti and Tuccrr, and we're happy to have you in that very elite club. So, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much.
Johnny, thanks for being a wonderful first-time guest. It was a pleasure having you on the show. You are always welcome back, and you were just a great guest to have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Honestly, this opportunity was so amazing. Anything to elevate the platform and to make sure that, like I said, I just want to do this to give back. And honestly, I'm just having such a great time doing it. So thank you so much. And I just want to also shout out Power on Gaming for drafting me this week. And I'm just so grateful for Super Tep God for giving me this opportunity, and Sino as well. And honestly, just to be here on this panel with my amazing teammate Docty, I just can't say anything more. Thank you so much, Roy. Thank you so much, Pulse. This is just such an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
All right, Pulse. It is wonderful doing this show each and every week with you, my friend. Thanks for joining me.
Peace and love, everybody.
All right, friends. That brings us to the end of another episode of Snap Judgments. Until next week, stay safe, make good choices, and keep on snapping.